The first thing you know is pain. A sharp, brutal kick to your ribs that steals the air from your lungs and jolts you from a sleep you don't remember falling into. It's into a symphony of agony and confusion. A ragged gasp tears from your throat, tasting of mud and something sour. Old beer, you curl into a ball, a primal instinct to protect your soft parts, but a second kick, this one to your thigh, spasm.
Get up, you lazy sod!
Sun's been up for hours. The swag's gonna fall into your lap while you snore. The voice is a rasp, a file on rusted iron. It's young, the edges with a hardness that speaks of years, not months. You crack open your eyes. The world is a smear of grey and brown. Tinged fog clings to everything, so dense it feels like you could scoop it with your hands. It muffles the world, press in from all sides the rhythmic clatter of iron, shod hooves on stone, the distant cry of a ship's horn from a river you can't see, the incessant hacking cough of 100 unseen lungs, cries of vendors hawking oysters, pies, and matches. The air itself is an assault, a thick cocktail of cold smoke, unwashed humanity, and the damp, earthy smell of the alley you're lying in. It coats your tongue and stings your eyes. Push yourself up, but your arms tremble. They feel thin, like twigs. Your hands are caked in a layer of grime, so deep your fingernails are black crescents. You look down at yourself. Pair of rough wool trousers, several sizes too large and held up by a knotted piece of rope. A thin, patched tunic, a shade of brown, is now the color of dirt. Your feet are bare, the soles calloused and numb to the chill of the damp cobblestones beneath you. This isn't right. None of it is. A flicker of another life, soft sheets, the hum of a refrigerator, the clean scent of soap flashes through your mind and vanishes like a dream, leaving you more bewildered than before. The boy who kicked you stands over you, a silhouette against the soupy light. He can't be more than 12 or 13, but his face is pinched and old. His eyes are pale, washed out blue, miss nothing. Is smudged high on his cheekbones and his hair is a tangled mess of straw, colored thatch. He shoves you again, less violently this time, more an impatient nudge. What's the matter with you, Sparrow? Going deaf. I said move it. The Toshes'll have cleared the grates by now if we don't look sharp. Ye Sparrow, the name means nothing to you. You try to speak, you are who he is, what's happening, but your throat is a desert. All that comes out is a dry croak. Face twists into a sneer. Lost your tongue, have you? Don't matter. Less gab, more grab, Simon. He doesn't wait for you to obey. A bony hand, surprisingly strong, clamps around your upper arm and hauls you to your feet. The world spins violently. Dizziness washes over you, and a deep, gnawing emptiness in your stomach makes itself known. It's not just hunger, a desperate craving that makes your saliva glands flood and your knees weak. When was the last time you ate? You can't remember. You can't remember anything before the kick. He drags you out of the narrow alley. Chaos of a London street hits you like a physical blow. The world is a heaving, shouting, stinking mass of people, and grimy waistcoats push carts laden with vegetables. Women with shawls pulled tight over their heads and baskets on their arms haggle fiercely with fishmongers whose scales glitter with a silvery sheen. Even smaller than you dart through the crowd like mice, their faces pale and their eyes too large. By two enormous black horses thunders past, splashing a far arc of grey, brown liquid from the gutter that narrowly misses you. The smell is overwhelming, that crawls into your nostrils and settles in your chest. The boy, your reluctant guardian, with an expert's ease, pulling you in his wake. Keep up, Sparrow, he hisses, his grip like iron. you belong, or a peel'll take an interest, and you won't like that peeler. The word floats in your mind, vaguely familiar. You shrink into yourself, trying to make your small frame even smaller. The faces in the crowd are a blur of exhaustion and suspicion. Smiles. Everyone is hurrying, pushing, their shoulders hunched against the damp chill and the weight of their own lives. You see a woman leaning in a doorway, her face vacant, a bottle of gin held loosely in her hand. You see a man with a racking cough spit a gob of flame onto the already filthy street. This isn't a historical reenactment. This is real. Effete is the H in your ribs is real. The terrifying emptiness in your belly is real. He finally stops. The edge of the street, where a gutter runs thick with a slow-moving sludge of refuse and rainwater. Iron grate set into the cobblestones. Right, your turn, he says, releasing your arm. Get down there. See what the river's washed up coins, bits of metal, a dropped locket if you're lucky. Fetch a penny. You stare at the grate. A foul sewer-like stench rises from it. Putting your hands into that filth makes your stomach clench with a revulsion so strong you almost gag. The words roar in your throat. His expression hardens. The pale blue eyes turn to chips of ice. Can't, hear. Sparrow. There's do, or there's starve. You want to starve? Be my guest. Expect me to share my takings when you're crying from the belly, H tonight. He gestures down the street with his chin. The mudlarks. You see them. You follow his gaze towards the riverbank, visible through a gap in the towering, soot-stained warehouses. On the exposed, muddy shore of the Thames, small figures are bent double, wading through the thick, black mud. They are sifting through the river's leavings, their clothes soaked and their bodies thin against the grey sky. Vision of utter desolation. That's what happens to them as can't. The boy says, his voice low and flat, grubbing in the muck for scraps till the river takes. Now, get on your knees. The threat is clear, simple. Survival. The word beats in your head like a drum. You swallow the bile that rises in your throat, warring with the gnawing terror of starvation. Slowly, reluctantly, you sink to your knees on the cold, damp stones. Stench from the grate is thick enough to chew. You can see dark water swirling below, carrying unidentifiable debris. You hesitate, hovering over the iron bars. Use your fingers, you dolt. The boy snaps. Got to poke around in the muck at the bottom. That's where things settle, the taking a shaky breath that does nothing to steady you. You force your fingers through the bars. The icy closes over your hand. It's a hideous sensation, a liquid cold that seems to seep straight into your bones. You flinch. The boy's sharp intake of breath stops you from pulling back. You probe the sludge at the bottom. Fingers close around something soft and yielding, and you recoil. Then you touch something hard, a stone, another stone, numb with cold, but you keep probing, driven by the boy's impatient presence and the terrifying image of the mudlarks. Brush against something small and round, a button. You work it free from the muck. It's heavy, metal. With trembling fingers, you pull your hand out of the grate. Your prize lies in your filthy palm, a brass button, ornate and heavy. From a gentleman's coat, it's green with verdigris in the crevices, but it's solid. The boy snatches it from your hand, rubbing it on his trousers to clean it. He inspects it closely, then gives a short, grudging nod. Not bad, Sparrow. Not bad for a start. Fetch a farthing. See, not so hard. He pockets the button. My find, though. I taught you the spot. You stare at your hand in stinking slime, a dull ache spreading from your chilled fingers up your arm. You got nothing for it. No food, no coin, even a word of real praise. just the brief reprieve of not being kicked again. This is the economy of the street, you realize. Knowledge is power, and he has it all. He starts walking again, and you scramble to follow, the hunger in your belly now a raging beast. The single button has done nothing to appease it. It has only sharpened your awareness of how empty you are. Every scent of food is a form of torture. The warm, yeasty smell from a baker's shop makes your head swim. The meat pie on a corner, gravy dripping down his chin, is an image of almost unimaginable luxury. Finn, you say, the name coming to you as if from a dream. You don't know how you know it, but you do. Finn, I'm hungry. He glances back at you, his expression unreadable. Course you're hungry. We're all hungry. Hunger's the normal way of things. The morning. But I can't. I feel sick. You protest, your voice thin. Sicker when your guts start eating themselves. He retorts, though there's a fraction less bite in his tone. He stops and scans the street, his eyes narrowed in calculation. He seems to be weighing options, measuring risks. Finally, settles on a man with a large, heated tray strapped around his neck. A small plume of steam rises from it, scent that is so wonderful it's painful. Hot meat, savory gravy, flaky pastry. Man, Finn murmurs almost to himself. He pulls you closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. All right, Sparrow, you want to eat. You gotta learn to earn, to trade, so we learn the other way. He watches the pie man, who is busy serving a customer and handing over a steaming pie wrapped in a bit of paper. He's old, a bit deaf in his left ear. See how he turns his head, and his eyes ain't what they used to be. The tray's heavy. He's slow. Finn's breaking down the man like a predator assessing his prey. It makes a cold dread pool in your stomach. Nothing to do with hunger. What are you saying? You ask, though you already know. Finn looks at you. First time you see a flicker of something that might be sympathy in his hardened eyes. But it's gone as quickly as it appears. Necessity. I'm saying, it's time you learned to dip. Sparrow. A quick hand, a bit of distraction. He gives your shoulder a squeeze, his bony fingers digging in. Don't look so scared. It's him or us? Starvin' today. Are you? He doesn't wait for an answer. He pushes you forward slightly, positioning you. The smell of the pies is intoxicating, a siren's call to your empty stomach. Your modern conscience, the ghost of who you used to be, protest. Stealing, a crime. Wrong, but the Victorian urchin you are now, the creature of instinct and pain, has only one thought, the warm, life-giving pie. Finn is watching you, his expression a mixture of challenge and command. The pie man turns vaguely over the crowd, over you, seeing nothing but another street rat. The choice is yours. The first of many, a dark road to survival. A sharp prod in your ribs is your new sunrise, awakening of your memory. That feels like a dream, but a harsh, insistent jab from a bony elbow. You groan, a sound swallowed by the damp wool of the sackcloth covering you. The cold has sunk deeper than your skin, in your marrow, a permanent resident of your bones. Up on your pins, a voice rasps. Jack. His silhouette is a jagged tear in the grey fabric of the pre-dawn light filtering into the alley. City, don't wait for no one. The coppers won't be asking nicely if they find us kipping here past sun up. You push yourself up, your muscles screaming in protest. Every joint is a point of agony, a reminder of the unforgiving stone bed. The stench you noticed yesterday has not improved with familiarity. It's a thick, layered smell, stale beer and urine from the nearby pub, the underlying rot of refuse and the ever-present, acrid bite of coal smoke that coats the back of your throat. You look at your hands. The grime is not just on them, but in them. and crease a permanent map of your new reality. Jack is already on his feet, his movements wiry and efficient, tattered coat tighter, his eyes darting towards the mouth of the alley. First rule, he says, not looking at you, low and serious. We don't get nabbed. You see a peeler fellas in the blue coat with the shiny buttons and the tall hat. You don't walk, you don't stroll. You melt, go into a crowd, down an alley, under a cart. Don't matter, just be gone. He finally turns to you, unnervingly intense for a boy his age. It's the look of someone who has been old for a very long time. They catch you for vagrancy, for looking like you got no place to be, and it's the workhouse for you. He gestures around the filthy, narrow space. The workhouse is 100 times worse. Separate you from anyone you know, shave your head, or pick oakum till your fingers bleed for a bowl of watery gruel. You don't get out, you just get used up. That the threat is so stark, so devoid of hyperbole, that a fear colder than the morning air grips you. You can only nod, form words. The abstract horrors of history books are suddenly a concrete, terrifying possibility. Good. Now, he says, the topic shifting as easily as the wind, he pats his own flat stomach. It's a bell, it's ringing in you now. You nod again, the gnawing emptiness in your gut, a constant, aching companion. You can't let it make you stupid. Snatch that loaf of bread from the baker's window. Told you to dip your hand in a toff's pocket what's right in front of a copper. You listen to that, you'll end up in the workhouse anyway, or clink. You gotta be smart. Your eyes are for finding, a lay just for crying. With that, he jerks his head towards the street. Come on. The world's waking up means there's pennies to be had. Stepping out of the alley is like being thrown into a churning, chaotic sea. Quiet of your stone sanctuary is shattered by a cacophony that assaults you from all sides. Rumble of iron shod wagon wheels on cobblestones is a continuous, grinding bass note. Countless horses' hooves adds a frantic percussive rhythm. Men shout, their voices raw and loud, or directing their carts. The high, piercing cries of vendors selling everything from hot pies to fresh milk cut through the den. A distant church bell begins to toll, its solemn peals almost lost in the noise and the smells. The air is a thick soup of odors. The warm, rich scent of baking bread from a nearby shop makes your stomach clench with a painful, desperate longing. It's immediately overwhelmed by the pungent, earthy stench of fresh horse manure, a smell so pervasive it seems to be the very foundation of the city's perfume. There's the sharp stink of the tannery down the lane, and harsh chemicals from a gin palace on the corner, or a wave of cheap spirits and unwashed bodies spills out every time the door swings open. You breathe it all in, this foul, vibrant, and feel a wave of dizziness. People are everywhere. A river of humanity flows low down the street. Men in dark, Barsar hats march with purpose, their faces grim. Women in voluminous skirts, their faces shielded by bonnets, hurry past. Their reticules, looking labourers in collarless shirts and heavy boots, jostle for space with messenger boys darting through the gaps. Weaving among them all like small grey fish in a colourful torrent are other children. Some are selling matches, thin and reedy. Others just watch, their eyes old and calculating, just like Jack's. See, Jack says, a low murmur in your ear. He points with his chin. Look there. He indicates a portly woman arguing with a fishmonger. A beaded little bag is hanging loosely from her wrist. Her mind's on the price of cod, not her money. A quick dip. But see the shopkeeper's boy, he's watching. Too risky. He steers you along, a firm hand on your shoulder, utterly invisible to the respectable people who sidestep you without a glance, their noses wrinkled in distaste. You are part of the grime, a piece of the scenery they wish wasn't there. There, Jack says again, stopping near a wide, busy intersection. The street here is a river of mud. It's not honest earthy mud, but a foul black, viscous sludge, a concoction of dirt, spilled coal dust, and 1,000 other unspeakable things. Carriages and omnibuses churn through it in greasy arcs. Pedestrians wait for a gap in the traffic, then pick their way across, protect their shoes and hems. "This is our pitch," Jack declares. "Hey, crossin', good and mucky." The toffs get their shiny boots all filthy, so we help them. He grins, a flash of white in his dirty face. For a consideration, he leads you to a nook between two buildings where two other boys, looking just as ragged as you, collection of makeshift brooms. They are pathetic things, just bundles of twigs and heather bound together with twine. A few gruff words with the bigger of the two, a boy with a pugnacious face and a missing front tooth. Tense negotiation, a language of grunts and nods you don't understand, and then Jack returns, pressing one of the crude brooms into your hands. The twigs are bristly and rough against your palms. "Right," he says. You stand at the edge. When you see a gent or a lady who looks right brassy, clean clothes, nice hat, got a penny to spare, you dart out ahead of them, you sweep the muck away, make a little path. You gotta be quick. Sweep as they pass, you look up at not too bold mind. Look pathetic, like you ain't eaten in a week. Which ain't hard. He gives you a grim smile. Then you hold out your hand and say, for the sweep, governor, or God bless you. Be polite, they like that. Makes M feel charitable. It sounds simple, debasing, but simple. You clutch the broom, slick with grime, and take your place at the edge of the foul-smelling morass. Jack stands a few feet away, watching, crossed. The first to approach is a woman with a face like a sour lemon, her lips pursed in permanent disapproval. Tate for a second, daunted by her expression. "Go on." Jack hisses. You jump forward, sweeping frantically at the thick ooze. Avid, it splatters your legs, the cold, wet filth soaking through your thin trousers instantly. You manage to clear a narrow, disgusting path. As she steps onto it, you look up, opening your mouth to speak. She doesn't even break her stride. "Get out of the way, you filthy creature," she snaps, pulling her skirts away as if you might contaminate them just by proximity. A physical blow, and you shrink back to the curb, shame and anger burning in your chest. Jack mutters from his spot. "Some are like that. Don't waste your breath on uns." You wait. The city roars around you. A carriage thunders past, spattering you with a fresh coat of muck that smells acrid and foul. You wipe your face with the back of your hand, smearing the filth. The gnawing hunger is a constant, dull ache, sharpened every time a food vendor cries his wares. Feels like an eternity. No one comes who fits Jack's description. It's all hurried clerks and burly draymen who would sooner kick you than give you a farthing. Hope begins to curdle into despair. Maybe you just stand here getting colder and hungrier until you collapse. Then you see him. He's a gentleman about it. He's wearing a tall silk top hat, a fine woolen overcoat. Boots are so polished you can almost see the grey sky reflected in them. He stands at the edge of the crossing, clear distaste at the sea of filth separating him from the other side. This is it. This is the one. Now, Jack breathes. a sound at your side. Your heart hammers against your ribs. You take a breath that tastes of coal and manure and dart forward. You sweep with a desperate energy, your whole body straining with the effort. You push the thick, stinking slurry aside, clearing a path a couple of feet wide right in front of him. The mud sucks at your worn-out shoes, and you nearly lose your balance. You finish just as he is about to step forward. You look up, your face smudged with dirt, your clothes soaked, your eyes wide with a mixture of hope and fear. You remember Jack's instructions. For the sweep, governor, you ask, comes out as a pathetic, reedy croak you barely recognize as your own. You hold out a trembling, filthy hand. The gentleman stops. He looks down at you, his expression unreadable. His eyes, a pale, clear blue, travel from your hopeful face to the path you've cleared. Outstretched hand. For a long, agonizing moment, he says nothing. You expect a curse, a dismissive wave, another crushing rejection. Your stomach twists itself into a tight, painful knot. He reaches into his waistcoat pocket. The movement is slow. Your breath catches in your throat. He pulls out a coin. It's not the dull brown of a farthing or a halfpenny. It's silver. He flips it through the air. You fumble, your cold, numbed fingers clumsy, but you manage to snatch it before it falls into the mud. Close your hand around it, the metal cool and solid against your skin. A good effort, boy, the gentleman says, voice crisp and deep. He doesn't smile, but his eyes seem less severe. See that you spend it on bread, not gin. And with that, he strides across your freshly swept path, his polished boots remaining immaculate. You stand there, stunned, clutching the coin in your fist. You slowly open your hand. Lying on your grimy palm is a threepenny bit, a whole silver threepence. Shine against your skin like a fallen star. It's more money than you could have imagined. Well, I'll be. Jack whispers, appearing at your side. His eyes are wide, fixed on the coin. A Joey, you landed a Joey on your first try. He lets out a low whistle. You do. That sad, kicked puppy look works a treat. He gently takes the coin from your hand, his touch surprisingly careful. Right, no more sweeping today. We don't press our luck, so'll see we're flush and try to roll us for it. The relief that washes over you is so profound it makes you weak at the knees. You've done it. You've earned something. You won't starve today. Jack leads you away from the crossing, his hand now a protective weight on your shoulder. He navigates the back streets with an expert's knowledge, his head on a swivel. He stops in front of a stall where a man is selling meat pies from under a greasy cloth. The smell is divine, a rich, savory aroma of hot pastry and gravy that makes your mouth flood with saliva. Two of your best, mister, Jack says, threepenny bit down on the counter. The man grunts, takes the coin, and hands over two steaming hot pies. A piece of paper. Jack gives one to you and keeps the other. You hold it in both hands. The warmth seeps through the paper. That chases some of the cold from your fingers. It feels like the most precious object in the world. You take a bite. It's flaky. The filling is hot, meaty, and salty, and it's the most delicious thing you have ever tasted. In a few ravenous mouthfuls, not even caring that you've burned your tongue, hits your empty stomach and spreads a feeling of deep, satisfying warmth through your entire body. It's more than just food. It's a victory against the cold, the hunger, and the crushing indifference of the city. You finish at the same time as Jack licks the last of the gravy from his fingers. See, he says, his voice softer now. That's how you do it. That's how you survive, one Joey at a time. He leads you to a new hiding place for the night, slightly more sheltered, alcove behind a brewery, where the warm air from a vent offers a small measure of comfort. As you huddle down, pulling another discarded sack over you, the exhaustion of the day hits you like a physical weight. Your body is a constellation of aches, stiff with dried mud, and the stench of London is now your own personal scent. But you are not as cold, are not hungry. You close your eyes, the image of the shining silver coin burned into your mind. You survived one day. You learned the rules. You felt the sting of contempt and the profound relief of a stranger's fleeting charity. Lying in the dark of the city as your lullaby, a single sobering thought echoes in your mind. One day down. How many more to go? Smear of dawn seeps into the alley, a light so thin and grudging it seems to add to the cold rather than chase it away. With a start, but with a slow, aching return to consciousness. Every part of you is a dull throb of misery. Your shoulder, pressed against the damp brickwork, feels like a block of ice. The gnawing emptiness in your stomach has become a familiar, constant companion, a hollow space where fear and hunger churn together. Jack is already stirring beside you, that resolves itself into a boy. He coughs, a dry, rattling sound that seems to tear at his throat, and spits a thick glob onto the cobblestones. He doesn't look at you, his eyes already scanning the mouth of the alley, calculating to move new on. He grunts, his voice a gravelly whisper. Nothing to be got by laying about art but a kickin' from the peelers. You push yourself up, protesting with a series of creaks and pops that sound alarmingly loud in the quiet of the morning. You found a piece of discarded sacking that smells of potatoes and mildew, offers no real warmth, a flimsy barrier against the worst of the damp. The air is thick with the smell of coal smoke and something else, and that might be the nearby tanneries or just the general scent of poverty. You follow Jack out of the relative shelter of the alley and into the narrow street. The city is already beginning to wake. Milk carts' wheels and the distant, mournful whistle of a steam train are the first sounds to break the silence. A penny on ye? Jack asks, not expecting an answer. You just shake your head, the movement making you dizzy. Your stomach clenches violently. Right then. Beggin's no good. Too many on that lay, and the coppers'll move us on for vagrancy. We need a proper dodge, something that looks like work. He stops and turns to you, his sharp, scrutinizing you from head to toe. It's a look that makes you feel like a piece of meat being judged for its worth. You ain't got the nerve for the lift, not yet, he says, referring to pickpocketing, a heavy work at the markets, so we'll try the sweep. The sweep. You echo, your voice hoarse, sweeper. He clarifies with a hint of impatience. Easy enough. Find a good crossing, where the swells and their ladies want to get over the muck without spoiling their fancy boots. You sweep the way clean. Simple. It sounds anything but simple. It sounds like organized begging with a prop. But first, he adds, set to his jaw, we need the gear. Getting the gear involves a journey deeper into the labyrinth of squalor, through a warren of streets, each one narrower and filthier than the last. The buildings lean in on each other. The sky, their grimy windows like vacant eyes. The stench is overwhelming, a physical presence that coats your tongue. Cocktail of human waste, rotting garbage. Ness of gin seeping from the doorways of public houses that never seem to close. You see faces in the gloom, pale, cheeked women with babies clutched to their chests, men with sunken eyes and unshaven jaws leaning against walls, utterly vacant. This isn't just poverty, it's a crushing destitution that seems to have seeped into the very bricks and mortar of the place. at a tenement building that looks on the verge of collapse. Jack points to a cellar entrance leading into the earth. "This is Peg's place," he mutters, his voice low. "She rents things. Don't say nothing. And keep your hands where she can see him. She's quick with a knife." The warning sends a fresh jolt of fear through you. You follow him down a set of slick, covered steps into a room that is part shop, part junk pile, part living quarters. The air is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies and gin. A single tallow candle sputters on a crate, casting long shadows that make the piles of refuse look like slumbering monsters. An old woman sits on a stool by the candle, cross hatch of wrinkles with small black eyes that miss nothing. This must be Peg. She's mending a boot with a rusty awl, and she doesn't look up as you enter. "Jack, you little devil," she rasps without preamble. "Thought the fever took you last winter. Takes more fever to take me. Peg," Jack says, balanced between respect and bravado. "I need a broom, a good pile o' twigs you gave me last time." The Peg finally looks up, her eyes flicking from Jack to you, for a moment with cold assessment. "And who's this? Your new little shadow. Like a good gust, oh wind blow him over." You shrink back under her gaze, feeling your own worthlessness. "A penny for the day. In advance, a penny." Jack scoffs, though there's a nervous edge to his voice. "Ha'penny for a broom. Peg, you know it is. Price has gone up. New sweepers, about since the rain started," she says, turning her attention back to the boot. It's a clear dismissal. Supply and demand. You think with a surge of bitter, useless irony. Even here, in this literal pit of despair, of capitalism are absolute. Jack nudges you. "Well, what you waiting for? The penny." He shoves you toward the steps. "Find a gent what's looking for a cab. Open his door, or hold a horse. The penny, and be quick about it," are pushed back out into the street alone. Your panic spikes. World seems impossibly loud and fast. Carriages rattle past, their drivers shouting, whips cracking. People shove past you, shoulders and elbows, no one meeting your eye. You are invisible, less than nothing. You see a well-dressed man in a top hat looking about impatiently, and an idea born of desperation forms in your mind. You remember seeing it in old movies. You run toward him, your heart hammering against your ribs. "Chab, sir, get you a cab," you call out, pathetic squeak. The man glances down at you, his lip curling in disgust. "Get away from me, you filthy urchin." He snarls, hand as if shooing a fly. The rejection is like a physical blow. You stumble back, the shame burning hot in your cheeks. You try again with a woman stepping out of a shop, but she just pulls her skirts tighter around her and hurries away. It's hopeless, clean in your speech, too hesitant in your movements. You don't have the hardened shell of misery that makes begging effective. Just as you're about to give up, you see it. A glint of copper on the greasy cobblestones, nestled beside a pile of horse manure. Someone must have dropped it, your heart leaps. You dart forward, ignoring the filth, and snatch it up. It's a penny, a whole, solid, real penny. It's warm from the sun, and you close your fist around it so tightly the edges dig into your palm. Feels like a bar of solid gold. You've never felt so rich in your life. When you return to the cellar, clutching the coin, and takes it from your hand without a word, she shuffles to the back of the room and returns with a broom. Jack described a worn bundle of twigs bound to a splintery pole with rope. It looks ancient, pathetic. But to you, tool that might keep you alive for one more day. Jack leads you to a crossing near Charing Cross. It's a wide, busy street, a river of mud churned by the constant traffic of omnibuses, hansom cabs, and private carriages. The noise is a physical assault, deafening roar of iron, shod hooves, grinding wheels, and shouting voices. The sidewalks are crowded with a bewildering mix of people. Suits and top hats, ladies in elaborate dresses and bonnets, clerks hurrying with leather satchels, red coats. It's a world away from the squalid alleys you just left, yet the two exist side by side, only by a few inches of curbstone. This is a good pitch, Jack explains, shouting to be heard over the din. Swells going to the clubs on Pall Mall. They don't like muck on their shine. He points with his chin. Over there, the one with the red scarf. That's Billy. This is his patch, mostly, but he's lazy. Till he's looking the other way or chassing a fare, then we nip in. You gotta be quick. He demonstrates, waiting for a lull, as a portly gentleman and his wife pause at the edge of the curb, looking with dismay at the sea of mud. Sweep the crossin' for ya, governor. He calls, his voice high and pathetic. He doesn't wait for an answer, sweeping a narrow path through the mire. He works with an efficient, practiced energy, his small body a whirlwind of motion. Looking pleased, tosses him a coin as he and his wife pass. Jack snatches it from the air, in a gesture of thanks, and melts back into the crowd before the larger boy, Billy, can react. See, he says, showing you the halfpenny in his palm. Easy. Now you, your turn. Your hands are slick with sweat as you grip the broom. Impossibly heavy. You see a young couple approaching, laughing together. This is it. You take a deep breath, tasting of manure and coal, and dash into the street. Sweep your crossing, sir. Mum, you stammer. 100 pairs of eyes on you. Your movements are clumsy, frantic. You're not so much sweeping the mud as just stirring it around. Thunders past, its driver screaming at you to get out of the way. The wind from its passage nearly knocks you off your feet. Filthy water from its wheels soaks your trousers to the knee. The cold shock is immediate and miserable. The couple, you completely, spies Jack's recently cleared path a few yards down and uses that instead. You've failed. Pavement, your face burning with humiliation. Too slow, Jack hisses in your ear.
And you're holding it wrong? You ain't painting a fence. Push from your shoulders and look pathetic.
Stick your gut out. Make him feel sorry for ya. You try again and again. Each attempt is a fresh wave of degradation. People ignore you. Cracks his whip near your head, making you flinch. A group of boys your age, better dressed, at you from the safety of the sidewalk. The shame is a physical weight pressing down on you, but the hunger is sharper. The memory of that gnawing emptiness in your stomach is the only thing that keeps you going. You have to eat. The thought becomes a mantra. And finally, a small victory. An elderly woman with a kind, wrinkled face stops and seems hesitant to brave the street. You leap forward, putting every ounce of desperation into your voice. Please, Mum, let me clear the way. Only a halfpenny. You sweep with a frantic energy born of pure need. You scrape a path clear and back, screaming in protest. She watches you with pity in her eyes. As she crosses, she presses something into your hand. Penny, it's a whole penny. God bless you, child, she murmurs. And she's gone before you can even stammer your thanks. You stare at the coin in your filthy palm as if it's a miracle. Of it spreads through your hand, a tiny island of hope in an ocean of misery. You look up, a triumphant grin spreading across your face, ready to show Jack. But your grin freezes. Billy, the boy with the red scarf, in front of you. He's much bigger up close, with a flat, brutish face and cold eyes. "That's my pitch," he growls, his voice low and menacing. "And that's my penny. I earned it." You stutter, clutching the coin tighter. "You earn nothing," he says, and he shoves you hard. You stumble backward, tripping over your own feet, with a painful thud on the hard cobblestones. Your head cracks against the curb, and the world explodes in a flash of white light. Precious broom clatters out of your grasp. Before you can even react, Billy snatches the penny from your open hand and grabs the broom. "Peace off back to whatever gutter you crawled out of." He spits, and he turns his back on you, already calling out to a new customer. Pain, rage, and frustration well in your eyes. You lie there, stunned and humiliated, from the street seeping into your clothes. Every muscle aches. Your head is throbbing. It's all for nothing. All that work, all that shame for nothing. Just as you're about to be consumed by despair, a hand grabs your arm and hauls you to your feet. It's Jack. He says urgently, "Never stay down!" Looks weak. He pulls you back toward the relative anonymity of the crowd. Grim told you he was trouble. That was stupid, taking him on. "He took our broom," you choke out with unshed tears. "We'll get another," Jack says, though he doesn't sound convinced. "We got my halfpenny to start." He looks up at the sky, where the light is already beginning to fade, turning the smoke-filled air a bruised purple. Done. Not much more to be made now. Find a doss. We with his halfpenny and the few coppers he'd made before. You have just enough. Ray the grand thoroughfare, and back into the shadows. You buy a single meat pie from a street vendor with his dirty hands, and gives you a piece. It's mostly greasy pastry and a lump of gristly, unidentifiable meat. The hot, savory flavor explodes in your mouth. It's the most incredible thing you have ever tasted. Spreads from your mouth to your stomach, a small, fragile shield against the cold and the fear. It's not enough, but it's something. Your shelter for the night is a common lodging house, a doss house. Price is 4p for a bed in the barracks room, or 2p for a spot on the floor. You can only afford the floor. You step inside, the smell hits you like a wall. It's the concentrated stench of unwashed humanity, stale beer, cheap gin, vomit, all trapped in a low-ceilinged, windowless room. The air is thick with pipe smoke and the sound of 100 people coughing, snoring, muttering, and groaning. Men and a few women are sprawled everywhere on crude wooden bunks, stacked 3 high on benches and on the filthy floorboards. Their faces are gaunt and shadowy in the flickering gaslight. A fight breaks out in one corner, a flurry of clumsy punches and curses that ends as quickly as it began. No one pays it much mind. This is the end of the line. This is where you end up when you have nothing left. Small space between a snoring man who smells powerfully of gin and a pile of damp rags that might conceal another person. He whispers, "Stay close. Lots of thieves in a place like this. They'll take the shoes off your feet while you sleep." You huddle down on the hard, grimy floor to your chest for warmth. The noise is a constant, oppressive blanket. The floor is sticky. Vibrations of the man snoring next to you through the wood. You close your eyes. The day flash behind your lids, the gentleman's sneer, the kind lady's pitying eyes, Billy's furious face, the miraculous glint of the penny in the muck. You survived. You made it through one day. But as you lie there, to the symphony of human misery around you, a chilling realization settles deep in your bones. This isn't an adventure anymore. This is story you're watching. This is your life now. and tomorrow you have to do it all over again. Shake jolts you from a sleep that was less a rest and more a brief surrender to exhaustion, is thick and smells of unwashed bodies, stale beer, and damp rot. For a moment, the disorientation is total. The modern world of your past life feels like a fever dream, and this grimy reality is the only thing that has ever been. Protests every movement, a symphony of aches in muscles you didn't know you had. The wooden floorboards beneath the thin are unforgivingly hard, and a deep, penetrating cold has settled in your bones. Oi, get up. The voice is a harsh whisper, close to your ear. It's Jack. Tide's on the turn. We miss the ebb. We miss the day. You peel your eyelids open. In the faint, filtering through a grimy window pane high on the wall, you can just make out his silhouette, pulling on his threadbare coat, a small, wary figure moving with an economy of motion that speaks of long practice. Around you, houses a landscape of sleeping forms, a chorus of snores, coughs, and troubled muttering. The air is so heavy you feel you could chew on it. Your own clothes, still damp from yesterday's near constant drizzle, clammy and foul against your skin. The thought of pulling them onto your shivering body is repulsive, but the alternative is freezing. Sit up, your head swimming for a second. Hunger is a physical presence in your gut, a hollow, it hard to think straight. Ain't got time for moonin' about. Jack prods, his voice impatient, boots lightly. The river won't wait, best pickings are when the water's just gone out, or the whole world and his dog are down there. You force yourself to move, clumsy as you pull on the rough trousers and the thin shirt. Every fibre of your being screams for warmth, for a hot drink, for something, anything to fill the void in your stomach. But Jack offers none of that. His focus is singular, a predator's focus on the hunt. For you, it's a terrifying lesson in priorities. In your old life, hunger was an inconvenience. Here, that drives everything. Stepping out of the lodging house and into the narrow alley is like plunging into a bath of ice. The air is sharp and carries the ubiquitous London perfume of coal smoke and damp earth. The sky above is a slate grey canvas than the soot-stained brick of the buildings that hem you in. The city is not yet fully awake, but it is stirring. Of carts on cobbled main roads has begun, a low growl that will soon swell into a roar. Jack leads the way with a friendly "follow me," but by simply setting off at a brisk pace, expecting you to keep up, you stumble after him, out boots offering little protection from the uneven stones. The alleys twist and turn, designed to confuse and swallow the unwary. Garbage is piled in corners, feast for the rats you hear skittering just beyond the range of your vision. The stench is overwhelming, a layered assault of human waste and industrial effluence. You emerge onto a wider street, and the scale of the city hits you anew. Even at this early hour, men with broad shoulders and grim faces march towards the docks, lunch pails in hand. A milkmaid, with cold, calls out in a high, sing-song voice, her pails clanking with every step. Clatter of horses' hooves on stone is sharp and constant. You and Jack are ghosts in this parade of labor, and insignificant to be noticed, slipping through the gaps in the crowd. Jack navigates the crush with an innate, fluid grace. Clumsy and exposed, you keep your head down, avoiding eye contact, mimicking his posture. You have learned this much already, is to be vulnerable. A shove from a hurrying worker sends you spinning into the gutter, the foul water splashing up your legs, self, shame, and anger hot in your throat, but the man is already gone, swallowed by the throng. Jack glances back, his expression unreadable before turning and continuing on his way. There is no sympathy here. You either keep up or you are left behind. The smell of the river reaches you long before you see it. It's a complex, powerful odor, different from the city's general grime. Salt and decay, of wet mud and sewage, of tar from the ships and barges. It is the smell of London's great open sewer and its primary artery of commerce, all at once. As you draw closer, the sounds change too. The city's rumble is joined by the mournful cry of gulls, the groan of ropes, and the distant, rhythmic clang of a ship's bell. A set of steep, slippery stone stairs, slick with green algae and something worse. Whopping old stairs, he mutters, as if the name itself is a warning. At the bottom, the world opens up. Tide is not a riverbank, it is a vast, exposed wound. A shoreline of thick, dark, stretches out for what seems like 100 yards, littered with debris. The water that remains is a murky, brown soup, sluggishly against the shore. On the far side, the silhouettes of warehouses and cranes are stark against the lightning sky. Naked ugliness of it is breathtaking. You are not alone. Other figures, mostly children and a few stooped old women, are already fanned out across the mudflats. They move slowly, bent double, their eyes fixed on the ground. They are the mudlarks. Right, Jack says, his voice low and serious. He points with his chin. CM, they got their patches. Don't go crowding, we'll start here. The tide's still going out, so we work our way down with it. When it turns, we work our way back up. He hitches up his trousers and, without another word, steps off the last stone step and sinks ankle deep into the mud. The sound is a thick, wet suck he doesn't seem to notice. You hesitate at the edge, your stomach churning. Thought of stepping into that filth, of letting it swallow your feet, is deeply repellent. It looks cold, foul, of unimaginable horrors. What you waiting for? An invitation from the Queen. Jack scoffs, not looking back. It won't bite. Taking a shallow, steadying breath that fills your lungs with the river's stench, you step forward. The cold is an instant agony. It's far colder than the air. Cold that seeps through the worn leather of your boots and engulfs your feet and ankles. The mud gives way with a disgusting squelch. Fight to keep your balance as it tries to pull you down. It's like stepping into a nightmare. Stand there like a stuck pig. Jack calls, his voice sharp. He's already 20 feet away, his back bent, sifting through the mire. Get your eyes down. Look for anything that ain't mud or stone. Bits o' rope, the ship's hulls, iron, coal that's fallen from the barges. Anything metal is good. Coal's worth a bit. Old bones. Sometimes if you can find a rag and bone man who'll take You force yourself to move, step a struggle against the mud's greedy pull. You bend over, your back already protesting, and stare down at the foul ground. Chaotic mess of pebbles, broken shards of pottery, and dark viscous. How is anyone supposed to find anything in this? Use your arms. Jack's voice drifts over to you. And your feet. Feel for it. You won't find much just by looking. Reluctantly, lower and plunge your bare hands into the slime. The cold is even worse on your skin, a biting shock that makes your fingers go numb almost instantly. The texture is vile, gritty, slimy, and utterly repulsive. Edges of broken glass and pottery, smooth, worn stones, and the soft, squishy texture of things you don't want to identify. Hands out, coated in a black, stinking glove of mud, and feel a wave of nausea. You look over at Jack with a focused intensity, his hands moving methodically through the sludge, his eyes scanning, missing nothing. A machine. You are a clumsy, useless intruder. Despair begins to creep in, cold and insidious as the river mud. You can't do this. You can't. You spend the next hour in a state of miserable, fruitless toil. Your back screams in protest, your hands are numb and raw, and the cold has seeped into your very marrow, making you shiver uncontrollably. But broken bits of clay pipes, oyster shells, and sharp, edged rocks that threaten to slice your frozen fingers work around you, silent and spectral, their focus absolute. Occasionally, we'll let out a small grunt of satisfaction, pocketing a find. But no one speaks. It's a solitary, competitive misery. To give up, to stand up and admit defeat, your fingers brush against something hard and regular. It's not a rock. It's thin and metallic. Your heart gives a small, hopeful flutter. You dig around it, your numb fingers fumbling. From the mud's grasp, it's a nail. A long, green, tinged copper nail, probably from the hull of a wooden ship, heavy in your palm, real and solid. You look at it, lying there in your filthy hand. It's a small, ugly piece of metal, but in this moment, it feels like a diamond. It is the first thing you have ever found, the first thing you have earned from this brutal, unforgiving world. A tiny spark of triumph cuts through the misery. You glance over at Jack. He's watching you. His expression uncharacteristically soft for a moment. He gives a single, sharp nod of approval before turning back to his own patch of mud. Gesture of acknowledgement feels more rewarding than any praise you have ever received. It means you are not entirely useless. You might be able to do this. Bolstered by your small success, you go back to work with renewed determination. Still there, the filth is still disgusting, but now there is a purpose to it. You are no longer just enduring, you are searching. To read the textures with your fingers, the smooth, deceptive curve of a buried bottle, the jagged edge of a broken plate, hardness of metal. Your finds are meager. Another copper nail, a few small, blackened lumps of coal, a short length of frayed. You stow them carefully in your trouser pockets, feeling their weight against your leg, a tangible measure of your labor. Breaking, soul-destroying work. The sun, a pale, watery disk in the grey sky, has climbed higher, but it offers no warmth. Your whole world has shrunk to this patch of stinking mud. Your senses attuned to the slightest variation in texture and form. All track of time. There is only the rhythm of the work. Plunge your hands in, sift, discard, move a step, repeat. Goes numb, focusing only on the task. You are no longer a person from another time and place. You are a mudlark. Reality now. A shout from further down the shore breaks your concentration. Tides turning. You look up, confused. Is already moving, wading back towards the stone steps, his eyes scanning the mud as he goes. Come on, he yells, his voice sharp with urgency. It comes in faster than you think. You look at the water. He's right. The sluggish seems closer than it was before. A sense of panic flares in your chest. You are a long way from the stairs, clings to your boots, making every step a monumental effort. You begin to struggle back, your breath coming in ragged gasps, are also retreating, a silent, orderly withdrawal that shows their deep, ingrained respect for the river's power. The water seems to chase you, creeping over the mudflats with an unnerving speed. You stumble, catching yourself with your hands, splashing your face. The taste is indescribably foul, a mixture of salt, sewage, and rot. You spit and scramble to your feet, pounding. Jack is waiting for you at the bottom of the stairs, his sack of findings slung over his shoulder. You finally reach the stone steps, hauling yourself out of the mud's clutches and collapsing onto the cold, hard stone. Shivering violently, covered head to toe in black, stinking filth, your hands are cut and bleeding in a dozen places, the grime worked deep into the skin. You feel a level of exhaustion so profound it's like a physical weight pressing you down. Looks at your pathetic haul, which you lay out on the step. Your 2 nails, the handful of coal, the bit of rope. Empties his own sack. It's a small mountain by comparison, a tangle of copper wire, a dozen or more large nails, several pieces of iron, and enough coal to fill a small bucket. He even has a small, tarnished silver locket. Not bad for a first go, he says, gesturing to your meager pile. It's not praise, just a statement of fact. You learn. The trick is to know where to look. The currents leave the EV stuff in the dips. He picks up your copper nails and adds them to his. We'll sell it all together. The marine store dealer won't bother with a haul as small as yours. You don't have the energy to argue. Your teeth chattering. The journey to the dealer is a blur of shivering misery, acutely aware of the stares of passers-by, of their wrinkled noses as you pass. You are a creature of the river and its slime. The marine store is a dark, cluttered cavern of junk, smelling of rust, old rope and damp. The dealer, with a face like a dried apple, eyes your filthy state with disdain. Jack does the talking, his voice taking on a harder edge. He haggles over the price, arguing fiercely over a halfpenny. You watch. This ritual you don't understand. Finally, a deal is struck. The dealer counts a few coins into Jack's grimy palm and presses a single heavy penny into your hand. Your share, he says. You stare at the coin. A single penny, breaking, freezing. Disgusting work, it feels like an insult. Look at Jack's own share, only 3 pennies and a halfpenny. This is the reality of your new economy, survival costs. Come on, Jack says, seeing the look on your face. Is food. He leads you not to a baker, to a small street stall where a woman is selling meat pies from a heated tray of hot pastry, and savory meat is the most wonderful thing you have ever smelled. Jack buys 2 pies, handing one to you. Hands, the warmth a blessing against your frozen fingers. You don't wait. You bite into it, scalding your tongue. Not even caring, the taste is overwhelming. Grazy, salty, meaty, with a flaky, rich crust. It's probably made of the cheapest, most questionable meat, but right now, it is the most delicious food you have ever eaten. Spreads from your mouth down to your stomach, a slow, glorious tide fighting back the cold. You eat it ravenously, grace dribbling down your chin, not caring how you look. You see Jack eating his with the same desperate intensity. When you are finished, the last crumbs from your filthy fingers, a profound sense of satisfaction settles over you. It's not happiness, more fundamental. You faced the river and you endured. You worked and you earned. You were hungry and now you have eaten. You have survived one day, leaning against a cold brick wall, the last of the pie's warmth fading in your stomach. Endless river of London life flow past. The exhaustion is still there, a heavy cloak on your shoulders, cake your skin and clothes. But the despair has receded, replaced by a grim, hard-won knowledge. Tomorrow. Jack says, his voice flat. He's not asking, he's stating the fundamental law of your existence. You look down at your hands, at the cuts and the grime worked deep into every line. You look at the penny still clutched in your palm. You have to do it all again tomorrow, and the day after that. The thought is daunting, almost crushing. But as you stand there, shivering in the heart of the vast, indifferent city, for the first time since you arrived, a tiny, stubborn thought takes root in your mind. Just maybe you can. The damp chill of the cellar clings to you, a second skin of mood and misery. It's a familiar feeling now, one that has seeped into your bones over the past weeks. You lie wedged between the sleeping forms of Jack and little Rosie, tangle of limbs on a pile of damp, musty straw that does little to soften the packed earth floor, mutters in her sleep, a small, whimpering sound, and you instinctively shield her from a draft that snakes through a crack in the foundation. The air is thick with the sour smell of unwashed bodies, June from Eliza's breath, and the faint, ever-present odour of the nearby fleet ditch, the world's fullest sewer left to fester in the sun. For a moment, your mind drifts, memory of clean sheets and the hum of a refrigerator surfacing like a bubble from the deep. You clamp down on it, hard. Those thoughts are a poison. They don't belong here. They only make the gnawing in your belly and the ache in your soul that much worse. Filters through the grimy pavement great high above, illuminating a lazy dance of dust motes. It's morning. Endured. Survived. You can hear the city waking up above you, the distant iron shod hooves on cobblestones, the rumble of a heavy dray cart, the faint, melodic cry of a milkmaid. Here in the dark, you are in the city's gut, listening to its groans and rumbles. Eliza is already awake, a silhouette sitting upright on a broken crate in the corner. Even in the gloom, her presence is commanding. She's staring at the great profile etched against the weak light. She's the oldest, maybe 14. The streets have carved the lines of a much older woman onto her face. She holds the gang together through a combination of sheer will, a ferocity that keeps the larger, more predatory gangs of the Rookery at bay. You are her property, in a way. All of you are. She protects you, feeds you when she can, and in return you earn. You sit up slowly, trying not to disturb the others. Your stomach gives a low, painful growl. Yesterday's haul from the Thames mud was pitiful, a few scraps of copper, coal too small to sell, and a waterlogged boot that was already falling apart. The hunger is a living thing inside you, a dull, constant that sharpens into a predatory focus. It's the first thing you feel when you wake, and the last thing you know before you fall into a fitful sleep. Eliza's gaze flicks towards you. Her eyes, dark and intelligent, seem to miss nothing. You're up, she states, her voice a low rasp. Good. We ain't mudlarkin' today. And the pickings are bare. A knot of apprehension tightens in your gut. Mudlarking is filthy back, breaking. Often fruitless, but it feels safer. It's you against the mud and the river, not you against other people. What are we doing? Your voice still thick with sleep. We're going to Cheapside, she says. The place hangs in the air with a weight of significance. Cheapside, the heart of the city's commerce, flowing through streets choked with crowds. It's where the swells go, in top hats with gold watches chained to their waistcoats. It's a place of opportunity and immense danger. Jack stirs beside you. He pushes himself up on one elbow, scrubbing a grimy hand across his face. Cheapside. He echoes, his voice wary. That's Peeler territory, Lisa crawling with him, and it's crawling with pockets. She retorts, her voice sharp as flint, fat ones. Rosie's cough is worse. We need a proper score. Not pennies for scrap, shillings, maybe even a quid. A sovereign, 20 shillings. The amount is so vast it's almost mythical. You try to calculate what it could buy. A dry room in a lodging house. Maybe even medicine for Rosie, whose small body is racked by coughing fits every night. The thought is a seductive warmth spreading through your cold limbs. Then the reality of what she's suggesting crashes down on you. You've stolen, of course, a stale loaf from a baker's cart when his back was turned. An apple from a stall. Small acts of survival. This is different. This is a planned operation. This is professional crime. The person you used to be, other life, recoils in horror. I can't do this. I'm not a thief. I'm but the child you are now, with the hollow belly and the dirt-caked skin, whispers back, and you're not a corpse either. Elisa's eyes are on you again, assessing. She sees the conflict on your face. You got a problem? She asks, her tone flat. You shake your head, forcing the word out. No, lying is becoming as natural as breathing. Good. She says, something not quite approval, but acceptance in her eyes. Because you're part of the plan. You're new. And you look pathetic. She says it not as an insult, but as a statement of fact, an appraisal of a useful tool. Slide right off you. That's good for us. She proceeds to lay it out, her voice low and urgent. Is the crowd around the Royal Exchange when the merchants and clerks are flooding out for their midday meal. Jack Fingers will be the tooler. Another boy, a lanky 10-year-old named Finn. Primary distraction, a faked seizure, something to draw a crowd and block the path. Stall. You are to get in the target's way at the precise moment, to be an annoyance, a clumsy urchin underfoot. Apology and pathetic demeanor will hold his attention for the split second Jack needs to dip the pocket. Then you melt away, panic. Just disappear back into the great, anonymous mass of London's poor. It sounds simple. It sounds terrifying. In your body screams in protest. The risk is astronomical. A child caught stealing could be sent to Newgate Prison. You've heard the other children speak of in hushed, terrified tones. Or worse, transported to Australia, being sent to the moon. Rosie is awake now, watching you all with wide, fearful eyes. She doesn't understand the words, but she understands the tension. You give her a weak smile, one that feels cracked and false on your face. She is the reason. You're doing this for her, for the food that will fill her belly and the warmth that will soothe her cough. Justification feels thin, a flimsy shield against the cold dread pooling in your stomach. An hour later, you are there. Cheapside hits you like a physical blow. It is a symphony of chaos. The air is a thick soup of smells, roasting chestnuts, printing ink from the nearby stationers, expensive perfume from a passing lady, pervading stench of coal smoke and human sweat. Thousands of people cram the pavements, a frantic, jostling river of humanity. Suits and top hats stride with purpose. Clerks scurry with leather folios. Voluminous skirts navigate the filth with grim determination. And everywhere, like stones in the riverbed, are the poor. Costermongers yelling their wares, ragged children darting through legs, beggars displaying their deformities. You feel impossibly small, a single drop of dirty water in a vast churning ocean. Elisa leads you, Jack and Finn, through the throng with an expert's ease, eye scanning, constantly moving. She points with a subtle jerk of her chin. There, the one with the grey coat and the shiny hat. Chain, a proper gold Fogel hunter. You see him. He's a mountain of a man, pressed belly and a face like a pink ham, jowls quivering with self-satisfaction. He's talking to another man, laughing, a booming baritone that carries over the din. He looks untouchable, a creature from another universe. Stealing from him is like trying to steal a tooth from a lion. Your heart is a frantic drum against your ribs, slick with sweat. You want to run, to flee back to the relative safety of the cellar. Grip on your arm is like an iron manacle. Remember the plan, she hisses in your ear, her breath warm and smelling of hunger. Wait for my signal. Finn, pale but resolute, nods and slips away into the crowd, positioning himself a dozen yards ahead of the target. Jack melts into the flow of people on the man's left side, becoming just another face in the crowd. His expression is blank, but you can see the tension in the set of his shoulders. Eliza says, her voice low and intense, her dark eyes boring into yours. Don't think, just do. You see me nod, you move, stumble, you get in his way, cry if you have to, make a scene, but hold his eye for just a tick. That's all Jack needs. You nod, unable to speak. Your throat is too tight. The two wealthy men finish their conversation. Target turns and begins to walk, heading right for the spot where Fing is waiting. Eliza's fingers dig into your arm. A final reminder. Go, she mouths. You detach yourself from her and stumble forward, trying to look like a lost, bewildered child. Difficult. You push through the forest of legs, wool of men's trousers, and the stiff fabric of women's skirts brushing against your face. The world is a blur of motion and noise. You see Eliza nod. At the same instant, Finn lets out a horrible, gurgling cry and collapses to the pavement, twitching violently. It's a terrifyingly convincing performance. A space immediately clears around him as people stop, stare, cry out in alarm. The swell in the grey coat, his path blocked, halts and peers at the commotion with a look of distaste. This is your moment. You launch yourself forward, aiming for his legs. You don't have to fake the stumble. Flagstones do the work for you. You fall against his knees with a genuine cry of pain, your small colliding with his solid, well-fed one. Here now, what in blazes? The man bellows, looking down at you. His ruddy with indignation, his eyes small and piggy. For a terrifying second, you are looking directly into the face of your crime. The ragged urchin clinging to his trousers. He sees vermin. Sorry, governor. You stammer, pitching your voice high, tremble. You look up at him with the widest, most pathetic eyes you can muster. Every ounce of fear and desperation you feel. I tripped. Sir, begging your pardon. His expression shifts from anger to sheer disgust. Get off me, you filthy creature! You'll stain my coat. But you have his attention. His eyes are locked on you. Out of the corner of your vision, you see a flicker of movement. Jack, a ghost in the crowd, his body pressed close to the man's side for a fraction of a second. His hand is a blur. It's so fast, so fluid, you almost miss it. Faint glint of the gold chain as it disappears into Jack's coat. The man shoves you away, hard, back onto the grimy pavement, the impact jarring your bones. Be off with you, he roars. You scramble away, not looking back. Your heart hammering so hard you feel it in your teeth. You don't run, you scuttle head down. Are the legs of the crowd that is still focused on Finn's dramatic fit. You are invisible again. The press of bodies, the noise of the street swallowing you whole. You dare a glance back. Jack is gone, still grumbling and brushing at his coat, completely oblivious. A few yards away, being helped to his feet by a concerned woman, mumbling about a turn he sometimes gets. You don't stop moving until you are several streets away, diving into the familiar labyrinth of alleys and courts that is your territory. You lean against a slick brick wall, gasping for air, making you shake uncontrollably. You did it. You were a part of it. A wave of nausea washes over you, hot and acidic. Your way to the Rendezvous Point, a collapsed archway behind a derelict tannery that reeks of chemicals and decay, is there already, pacing like a caged wolf. A moment later, Jack arrives, his face flushed with triumph. He grins, a rare, startlingly boyish expression. He pulls the prize from inside his coat. It's a thick, brown leather wallet attached to a heavy gold chain. From the end of the chain is a magnificent gold pocket watch, its face polished to a high gleam. Glow in the gloom of the alley. Eliza snatches it from him, her eyes alight with a hungry fire. She snaps open the watch case. Softly, a delicate, beautiful sound completely out of place in this world of filth and desperation. Then she opens the wallet. It's a sheaf of banknotes and a cascade of heavy gold and silver coins. She counts it quickly, her lips moving silently. 3 sovereigns, she breathes, her voice filled with awe. And 12 shillings, 3 quid and 12. It's a fortune, altering sum. Jack lets out a whoop of pure joy. Finn, arriving moments later, stares at the money with wide eyes. For a moment, the grim, hard-bitten survivalists are gone, replaced by excited children. They are celebrating. Jack claps you on the back, a rough, friendly gesture. "You did good," he says. "Proper good." Stalled like a stuck pig. You should feel relief. You should feel joy. The gnawing hunger in your stomach is already being silenced by the promise of what this money can buy. Is the swell's face, his expression of disgust. You can feel the phantom impact of his hand shoving you to the ground. Chime of the watch sounds like a funeral bell in your ears. That night, for the first time since you arrived in this nightmare, Eliza buys meat pies from a street vendor, hot and greasy, the savory steam warming your face. Flaky, the meat rich, it's the most delicious thing you have ever tasted. She even buys a small bottle of milk for Rosie, greedily, her coughing already seeming to lessen. Later, sitting in the cellar, less like a tomb and more like a fortress, Eliza passes around a small flask of gin. "Just a sip," she says, "to celebrate." The fiery liquid burns its way down your throat. The other children are giddy, laughing, their bellies full. The gold coins clutched in Eliza's hand, a talisman against the world. As you swallow the hot pie and feel the gin's warmth spread through your chest, a profound coldness settles in your soul. You are no longer just a victim, a lost soul from another time struggling to survive. You are a thief. Dipper's stall. You are one of them. You look at Rosie, a smudge of gravy on her cheek, smiling a rare, genuine smile. You helped do that. You had to kill a part of yourself. You survived the day, but you wonder, with a sudden, piercing clarity, to survive the week. The damp chill of the cellar seeps through the thin sackcloth you use as a blanket, but unwelcome companion in the pre-dawn grey. You shift on the hard, packed earth, sending a cascade of dust motes dancing in the single, weak shaft of light filtering through the street level grate. Murmurs in her sleep, a small bird-like sound, her small body curled into a tight ball for warmth. On your other side, Jack is a still, solid presence, his breathing even and slow. For a few precious moments, the world is just this, the three of you, shared warmth in a vast, cold city, a strange, twisted sort of family. The thought, once terrifying, is now a comfort, a single anchor in the churning sea of this impossible life. You lie still, listening to London waking up. The first sounds of the distant clop of a dray horse's hooves on cobblestone, then the grating squeal of a cart's annoyed axle. A baker's boy whistles a jaunty, off-key tune somewhere down the alley. Soon, the symphony will swell into a roar, but for now, prelude. This is your life now. The initial, screaming panic of waking in this grimy, forgotten body has faded. Dull, persistent ache of acceptance. You no longer spend every waking moment trying to rationalize the impossible. Survival has a way of pushing existential dread to the back of the mind. And survival, for the past few weeks, has meant following Jack's lead. He stirs, and the fragile peace of the morning shatters. He sits up, running a hand through his matted hair, and his eyes, sharp and intelligent, are already scanning the cellar, assessing. They land on you, A grin touches his lips. Mornin', governor, sleepin' like a toff in his featherbait. His voice is rough, but there's a familiar teasing quality to it. You've become the governor, a half mocking, affectionate nickname born from your strange way of speaking and your sometimes baffled reactions to the most common street-level realities. Something like that, you manage your own voice a croak. You push yourself up, the cold floor sending a jolt through your bare feet. Tay, that lay is the plan. Every day has a lay. Usually, it's simple. Jack works the busier thoroughfares, in the crowds, his nimble fingers seeking out unattended pockets. Lily, with her wide, innocent eyes, sells matches or wilting flowers near the grander squares, a picture of pitiable hardship that can sometimes earn a sympathetic penny. Is usually lookout or crow for Jack. You watch for the peelers, the uniformed policemen who patrol the streets. Their presence a constant, low-level threat. You've learned to spot them from a distance, to read the posture of a crowd when a situation is about to turn sour. But today, Jack's expression is different. There's a gleam in his eye you haven't seen before, a sharp, hungry excitement that sets your modern-day nerves on edge, hidden crevice between two loose bricks in the wall, and pulls out a small, greasy package, unwraps it to reveal a chunk of bread and a sliver of hard, yellow cheese. He breaks it into 3 unequal pieces, the largest to the still sleeping Lily, the next to you, and the smallest to himself. It's a ritual you've come to understand, at least today. He says, chewing thoughtfully, "We ain't after pennies, we're after shillings, pounds." Your stomach clenches, and it has nothing to do with the stale bread. "What are you talking about, Jack?" He leans closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "There's this cove, a proper swell, every day, regular as clockwork, at that pie shop on Fleet Street, 'bout noon. Big fella, red face, waistcoat like a bleedin' peacock, chain." Jack's eyes gator a ticker. "Gold, I reckon. A proper repeater with a fob and all. A gold pocket watch, hang in the air, heavy and dangerous. This isn't lifting a handkerchief or a stray coin from a distracted shopper. High risk, high reward theft. The kind of thing that gets you noticed, that could land a boy like Jack on a transport ship to Australia or worse." "Jack, no." You say, the words coming out faster than you intend. "That's too risky. A man like that, he'll raise a hue and cry. Peelers everywhere. Pace us." He scoffs a harsh, dismissive sound. "That's why you'll be there, won't ya, governor? To keep your eyes peeled. It's easy. The street's always packed. I'll do the dip. You cause a little ruckus on the other side of the road. Knock over a fruit stall, start a row, and we melt away. Lily stays ear, too risky for air." He speaks with such confidence, such certainty. This is just a more ambitious version of the daily grind. To you, it's a scene from a crime novel you never wanted to star in, honed by a lifetime of rules and consequences you can barely remember. Screams that this is a catastrophic mistake. Caught, you press, your voice tight. What happens then? His face darkens for a moment. The cheerful slips, and you see the hard, desperate boy underneath. "Don't get caught," he says, his voice flat. That's the first rule, and the only one that matters. We need this, governor. Winter's coming. You feel it in the air, a full belly for one day. A gold ticker could see us through till spring. Proper food. Maybe even a new pair of boots for Lily. Think on that. He nudges Lily gently with his foot. She wakes with a start, blue eyes wide and clouded with sleep. "Jack, "Mornin', little bird," he says, his voice softening instantly. "Bread and cheese. Eat up. We got a busy day." She looks from his face to yours, sensing the tension in the air. On her bread, her gaze questioning, and in that moment, looking at her thin, the worn-out dress that hangs off her small frame, you feel your resolve crumble. Jack is right. Winter is coming. Feel it in the gnawing damp, in the way the fog seems to linger longer each morning. A few pinches won't stop the cold from seeping into your bones. Has started to rattle in Lily's chest. Your 21st century morality feels like a luxury you can no longer afford. Survival is the only rule that matters. Alright, you hear yourself say the word tasting like ash in your mouth. Alright, Jack. His grin returns, wide and triumphant. That's the spirit, Governor. In UA Fleet Street is a river of humanity, a chaotic torrent of noise and motion. Is thick with the smell of coal smoke, horse manure, and the tantalizing aroma of hot pies from the very shop Jack pointed out. Gentlemen stride with purpose, their coattails flapping. Women in voluminous skirts navigate the crowded pavement, hidden behind veils. Messenger boys dart through the throng like startled fish. Iron shod wheels on stone is a constant, deafening roar. You feel small and invisible, piece of human detritus washed up on the shore of this bustling metropolis. Your heart hammers against your ribs, against the city's steady beat. You and Jack stand in a recessed doorway across the street from the pie shop, casual, trying to look like you belong anywhere at all. Jack is preternaturally calm, scanning the crowd with a professional, detached air. He's in his element. You feel like you're about to vibrate out of your own skin. "Easy now, Governor," he murmurs, not looking at you. "Just breathe. Muck, look for the crush. That's what we need, a proper crush of people." You try to take a deep breath, but the air is too thick. Smells. You can't stop picturing what will happen if this goes wrong. The shout, the pointing finger, the chase, the brutal, swift justice of the street, followed by the cold, indifferent justice of the law. Then you see him, just as Jack described, a large man with a florid red face wedged into a waistcoat of truly offensive purple brocade. He's emerging from the pie shop with a handkerchief, and there looped across his expansive belly is a thick gold chain, stray patch of watery sunlight. At its end, tucked into a small pocket, is the prize, the ticker. It looks heavy, solid, valuable. Jack gives your arm a slight squeeze. There he is, our Mr. Plum. A nickname just like yours. The target less of a person, more of an object. He'll turn left, Udden, for Temple Bar. Bit just past that book Bunders. That's the spot. When I give the nod, you do your thing. Your mouth is dry. Exactly. Anything. He hisses. "Yell fire!" Tip over that news. Vendors stand, start a fight with a ghost. Scene, a big one. All eyes on you for 5 seconds. That's all I need. Mist Steer begins his ponderous journey down the pavement. You and Jack melt out of the doorway, staying on the opposite side of the street with the flow of the crowd. Every step feels like you're walking a tightrope over a pit of fire. You watch Jack as he expertly weaves through the throng, his small frame allowing him to slip through gaps that would stop a larger person. His focus absolute. You near the bookbender's shop. The pavement narrows, just as he said, press close together. This is it. Jack positions himself a few paces behind Mr. Plum, seemingly engrossed in a shop window. He catches your eye across the street. He gives a single, almost imperceptible nod. Time slows down. Of the street fades to a dull hum in your ears. Your gaze falls on a stack of newspapers on a wooden stand nearby, currently distracted by a customer. It's a pathetic prop for the drama you're about to stage, but it's all you have. Close your eyes for a second, and then you act. You lunge towards the stand, deliberately stumbling, arms flailing. You crash into it with all your weight. The flimsy structure collapses with a splintering crack. Fly into the air like startled pigeons, scattering on the grimy pavement and under the feet of the crowd. The vendor shrieks, turning on you with a furious expression. "You clumsy oaf!" You don't wait for him to grab you. You start shouting, pointing a trembling finger at a random-looking man in a bowler hat. "He pushed me! He did! The bleeding villain pushed me!" It's a terrible performance, wrought and unconvincing, but it doesn't matter. In the chaos of the London's street, any disruption is a spectacle. Heads turn. Stop to gawk at the shouting match, at the papers swirling in the gutter. A small circle of attention forms around you. You've created the diversion, and out of the corner of your eye, you see a flash of movement. Jack, swift as a striking snake, plumb as if by accident. His hand is a blur, a quick apology, a tip of an imaginary cap, and he's peeling away, melting back into the crowd, moving away from the scene. You see the glint of gold in his hand just before he palms it. He did it. Of adrenaline-fueled relief washes over you. You almost laugh, but the laugh dies in your throat. A voice cuts through the noise. "You! Stop, thief!" It wasn't Mr. Plum. He's still patting his waistcoat, look on his face, not yet aware of his loss. It was someone else, someone in the crowd who saw. A sharp face and sharper eyes is pointing directly at Jack. Jack freezes for a fraction of a second. His head whips around, wide with panic. He sees the pointing finger. He sees the two uniformed peelers who were patrolling the far end of the street, now striding purposefully towards him. Happens at once. The vendor grabs your arm. "You ain't going nowhere, you little liar!" The crowd surges. Jack, desperate sprint, shoves his way through the wall of bodies. "Jack!" You scream, his name torn from your lungs. His face a mask of desperation. He's fast, but the peelers are closing the distance. He's not going to make it. In a single fluid motion, as he runs past a narrow alleyway just a few yards from you, he turns and flings the gold watch. Through the air, a glittering comet, and you react on pure instinct. You wrench your arm free from the vendor's grasp and catch it. Gold is cold and solid in your hand, a terrifying weight. Jack's eyes meet yours across the chaos. There's no time for words. His expression is a clear, desperate command. Run, then he does something that seals his fate and saves yours. Sharply away from you, drawing the peeler's attention, with him leading them on a hopeless chase down the main thoroughfare. One of the peelers shouts. The crowd parts for the chase. Your own little drama is forgotten. The vendor lets you go, drawn to the greater spectacle. For a moment, you're frozen, the cold metal of the watch burning against your palm. Your mind is a whirlwind of horror and indecision. You should help him. You should do something. But what if his silent command echoes in your head? He bought you time. Wasting it would be the ultimate betrayal. And plunge into the dark, narrow mouth of the alley. Your feet pound on the slick, refuse-strewn ground. You don't look back. You just run, clutching the stolen watch so tightly the edges of the casing dig into your flesh. Until your lungs are on fire and your legs are screaming. The sounds of the chase on Fleet Street fading behind you. By the frantic, terrified thumping of your own heart, running until you're deep in the labyrinthine warren of back streets and courts you've come to know as home. You only stop when you stumble back to the alleyway that hides the entrance to your cellar, your breath coming in ragged, painful sobs, the damp brick wall, the cold seeping into your back, and you finally look at what you're holding. The watch is beautiful, is intricately engraved with swirling patterns. You press the small button on the side and the cover springs open, enamel face with delicate Roman numerals and slender blue steel hands. It's a masterpiece of craftsmanship, a piece of another world, a world of warmth and comfort and time to spare. It's the price of Jack's freedom. The reality of the situation crashes down on you with the force of a physical blow. Jack is gone, caught. He sacrificed himself for you. He entrusted you with the prize, the very thing that cost him everything. You sit there for a long time, sky pressing down on you, the watch feeling heavier and heavier in your hand. The adrenaline fades, leaving behind a hollow, grunting but the aching fear. What do you do now? How do you go back to the cellar and face Lily? How do you tell her that Jack isn't coming back? Thought of her face, of her hope turning to despair, is more terrifying than the peelers, more terrifying than the chase. But you can't stay here forever. Shaking, you push yourself to your feet, tuck the watch deep into the waistband of your trousers, a cold against your skin, and you force yourself to walk towards the cellar, towards Lily, sitting by the grate when you slide back into the damp darkness, looking up with an expectant expression. Did you get it? Her voice is a small, hopeful whisper in the gloom, and looking at her, weight of your new reality settle onto your shoulders. You are the governor now, not as a joke, but for real. You are the one who has to make the plan. You are the one who has to keep them alive. You are the one who has to lie. Hey, he had to go somewhere else, you stammer, the lie feeling clumsy and sharp in your mouth. He sent me back. Said he'd meet her. Lily's face falls slightly, but she nods, accepting it. She trusts you. She trusts Jack. Trust is a knife in your gut. Oh, is he all right? Oh, he's fine. You say, confidence you don't feel. Just business. He told me to look after you. You sit down beside her, the watch pressing into your side. You are the leader now. And your first act as leader was a lie. You stare into the gloom of the cellar, the weight of the gold and the guilt almost too much to bear. You survived the day, but as the sounds of London rumble on above you, you have the sinking feeling that the real test, the true fight for survival, you have to turn this piece of gold, this cursed, beautiful object, into a future. You have to find a fence, stolen goods, and navigate a world even more dangerous than the one you've just been initiated into. And you have to do it alone. The coppers you earned from the locket felt heavier than lead in your pocket, a dangerous, wonderful weight. For 3 days, you, Jack, ate like royalty. Not the kind of royalty in palaces, but the sovereigns of your own damp kingdom beneath the arches of the Blackfriars Bridge. You would meat pies, the pastry flaky and still warm, but savory gravy that made you close your eyes in bliss. You bought a whole loaf of bread, not stale crusts, huge, soft chunks, sharing them in the flickering light of a stolen tallow candle. The greasy, glorious taste of it, the simple miracle of a full stomach pleasure so intense it was almost painful. It was a fragile warmth against the constant, seeping cold of the Thames, a brief, golden pause in the relentless grind of survival. You lie on a pile of scavenged sacks, burlap scratching your cheek, and listen to the rhythmic breathing of your companions. Eliza is curled into a tight ball, her small form barely a lump under a threadbare blanket. Jack is sprawled on his back, one arm flung over his face, exhausted trust he would never show in the daylight. A profound, aching affection for them fills your chest. Family now, forged in filth and desperation. The thought is both comforting and terrifying. Their survival is tied to yours, your responsibility. The memory of your other life, the one before this grimy awakening, flickers like a dying ember, less like a memory and more like a dream you once had filled with impossible things like hot showers and clean sheets. Here, now, the smell of mildew and river mud, the distant clang of a ship's bell, of the coins in your pocket. This is your world. It ain't gonna last. Jack says the next morning, his voice a low rasp. He's staring at the half loaf of bread with the grim pragmatism that defines him. Another day, maybe two, to Mudlarkin for scraps. We should enjoy it. Get another pie. No, you hear yourself say, coming out with more force than you intended. Both he and Eliza look at you, surprised. You sit up, sending a shock through your thin trousers. No, we can't just eat the money, make it into more money. Jack scoffs a harsh, humorless sound. And how are we gonna do that? A shop on Regent Street. Money don't make money for the likes of us, pal. Just stops you starving for a bit. He's right, Eliza whispers, her voice barely audible. She shrinks back when you look at her, as if expecting a blow for disagreeing. The gesture twists something in your gut. No, you insist, your mind racing, trying to translate a 21st century concept into their world. We buy something cheap that we can sell for more. Not much more, just a little. We buy something for a penny, we sell it for 2 pennies. 2 pennies to start with. The logic feels flimsy even as you say it, theory tested against the brutal reality of the street. Jack squints at you, his sharp eyes suspicious, sort of something. An image surfaces, pulled from some half-remembered book or film, a small girl shivering on a corner. Matches, you say. Lucifers. People always need a light. We can buy a whole gross of im cheap, sell the little boxes for a halfpenny or a penny apiece. Silence. Jack gnaws on his lower lip, a rare sign of genuine consideration. He looks from you to the dwindling pile of coins you've laid out on a flat stone. It's a risk. Spending everything on a gamble when a hot meal is a sure thing feels like madness. But you see a flicker of something in his eyes. Not hope, that's too strong a word, but a grudging respect for the audacity of the idea. It's a plan. It's more than just reacting, more than just scavenging. It's trying to build something. Where'd you buy a gross of lucifers? He asks, the question itself a concession. I don't know, you admit. A wholesaler in the city, maybe, where the shops buy their stock. He nods slowly. Chepside, maybe, or near there, full of warehouses. He looks at the coins again, then back at you. His gaze is intense, searching. He's weighing you, not just the plan. Whether to trust this strange, unstreetwise knowledge you seem to pull from nowhere. All right, he says finally, stone. We try it, your way. But if we lose it all, who's going to tell Eliza's belly there's no supper? The weight of his words settles on you. Mist. The journey to Cheapside is an expedition into a foreign country, familiar squalor of the riverbank and plunge into the roaring heart of London's commerce. The streets are narrower here, packed shoulder to shoulder with a different class of person. Men in dark suits and top hats stride with purpose, grim and focused. Women in fine bonnets and voluminous skirts sail through the crowds like ships. their expressions pinched with distaste as they pass urchins like you. The air thick with coal smoke, also laced with 100 other scents: a roasting coffee, fresh baked bread from a baker's window, leather from a saddler's, the sweet, cloying perfume of the wealthy. It's a world of tantalizing smells and sights, wall of glass or a barrier of social class. Eliza clings to your hand, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and wonder, walks with a tense swagger, his hands in his pockets, his gaze constantly scanning the crowd for threats. A rival gang, eyed copper, a pickpocket looking for an easy mark. You feel utterly exposed, clothes a beacon of poverty in this ocean of prosperity. Every glance from a well-dressed passer-by feels like an accusation. You are dirt, you are a nuisance, you do not belong here. The feeling is so powerful it's almost a physical force towards the slums. In there, Jack mutters, jerking his chin towards a grimy, narrow storefront squeezed between a tobacconist and a printer. The sign above, faded and peeling, reads T.S. Billings and Son. Sundries and notions, wholesale. The windows are so coated with dust you can't see inside. Like a shop and more like the entrance to a dragon's lair. But breath that does little to calm the frantic hammering of your heart. You push the door open, tinnily overhead, announcing your presence. The air inside is still and smells of dust, old paper, and carbolic soap, of cardboard and boxes and wooden crates stacked from floor to ceiling, leaving only narrow paths between them. Behind a scarred wooden counter at the very back stands a man who looks as old and dusty as his merchandise. He has thin, white hair, spatched on the end of his nose, and a cardigan so frayed it seems to be held together by memory alone. His glasses, his expression one of weary annoyance. "We're not a charity," he says, voice dry as rustling leaves. "Whatever you're selling, I don't want it. Whatever you're begging for, you'll not get it. Now, for your courage almost fails you. This is it. The wall you knew you'd hit." Eliza's small hand tremble in yours and see Jack's jaw tighten. "You have to do this." "We're not begging," you say, trying to keep your voice steady. "Or selling. We're here to buy." The old man, Mr. Billings, you presume. The expression is one of faint, clinical curiosity, like a scientist observing an unusual insect. "To buy. What would the likes of you be buying from me?" You step forward, placing your precious, grimy coins on the counter. The clatter sounds impossibly loud in the silence of the shop. A gross of Lucifer matches, if you please. Billings stares at the coins, then back at your face. He seems to see you for the first time, not as a generic street urchin, but as an individual, a strange, inexplicable flicker of something. Is it pity, amusement, a long-forgotten memory? Crosses his features, a great gust of air, and turns without another word. After a moment of rummaging in the shadows, he returns and places a large, plain cardboard box on the counter. It's surprisingly heavy. "One gross," he says, sweeping your coins into a wooden drawer. 44 boxes. See, you don't set yourselves alight with them. It's not a warning offered with kindness, statement of fact, a dismissal. You feel a surge of pure, unadulterated triumph. You did it. You walked into the adult world, the world of commerce, and you conducted business. You take hold of the box, and the reality of it, the solid, tangible proof of your plan, is intoxicating. "Thank you, sir," you say, your voice thick with emotion. He just grunts, already turning away, the transaction forgotten. As you Jack and Eliza back out of the shop into the bright, noisy street, you feel 10 feet tall, just scavengers. You are entrepreneurs, merchants. The box is a chest of treasure. Each small package of matches a golden promise. Blimey, Jack breathes, staring at the box in your arms. The respect in his voice is as valuable as the matches themselves. For a moment, in the chaos of Cheapside, the future feels not just possible, but bright. Lasts for the entire walk back towards your territory. You discuss strategy in excited whispers. You'll sell them near the coaching inns, where men need a light for their pipes, or outside the gin palaces, stumbling out into the night. You'll be careful. You'll split up to cover more ground. Can hold the main box in a safe spot while you and Jack do the selling. The plan feels foolproof, machined for turning your small stake into a steady income. First time since you woke up in this nightmare that you've felt a sense of control, a sense that you can shape your own destiny. You're so caught up in the glow of your success that you don't notice the shift in the atmosphere until it's too late. The main thoroughfare into the familiar labyrinth of alleys that leads to the river. The world seems to darken. The shadows here are deeper, the stench of gin and unwashed bodies more potent. This is not the neutral territory of the city. This is the lawless frontier where strength is the only currency. Well. Look what the river coughed up, a voice sneers. Leaning against a soot-blackened wall are 3 older boys. They are bigger, dirtier, looking than any you've encountered before. The one who spoke is the tallest, a lanky youth with a cruel, thin mouth and pale. He has a raw, red scar that puckers the skin from his eyebrow to his cheekbone. This must be Silas. You've heard Jack mention in hushed, angry tones. Gang of mudlarks and thieves who claim the territory just upstream. Silas, Jack says, his voice low and flat. He pushes you and Eliza slightly behind him, his body tensing like a cornered dog's. For trouble? Silas smiles, a slow, unpleasant stretching of his lips that doesn't reach his eyes. Aren't you now? That's a shame, 'cause it looks like you found something. His gaze fixes on the box in your arms. What's in the box, little rats? Something nice? I've nothing. That's yours. Jack spits back, his fists clenched at his sides. This stretch is mine, Jackie boy. You know the rules. Silas pushes himself off the wall and takes a slow step forward by his 2 thuggish companions. They move with a lazy confidence that is far more menacing than outright aggression. Matched, they know they have you on mind. Screams, run, drop the box and run. But you can't. The box represents everything. Food, a future. It's all your capital, all your hope bound up in cheap cardboard. To lose it is to be plunged back into absolute zero. Silas, Jack warns, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and rage. Silas laughs, a short, ugly bark. It's not a request. What happens next is a blur of desperate motion. You try to back away, box to your chest like a shield. Silas lunges. He's not after you, he's after the prize. The corner of the box. Jack moves with the feral speed of a true street fighter. At Silas, not with a punch, but with a desperate, clawing tackle aimed at his legs. One of Silas's cronies grabs Jack by the collar of his coat and yanks him back, slamming him hard against the brick wall. The sound of Jack's head hitting the bricks is sickeningly dull. Jack, Eliza screams, her voice thin with terror, narrows to the struggle for the box. Silas's fingers are strong, digging into the cardboard. You twist, trying to pull it free. He's too strong. With a final violent wrench, he rips from your grasp. The force sends you stumbling backward. Fall hard onto the slimy cobblestones. The box tumbles open, spilling its precious contents across the filthy ground, till matchboxes scatter like dead leaves in the grime. It's a disaster, a complete, catastrophic failure. and his boys laugh, scooping up handfuls of the scattered boxes, stuffing them into their pockets. Bother to pick them all up. They've taken more than half, and that's enough to assert their dominance. Jack, dazed, off the wall, a trickle of blood running from his temple. He makes a wild, futile grab for one of the boys, who just shoves him back down. "A pleasure doing business with you," Silas sneers, giving you a final, contemptuous kick to the ribs, hard enough to break anything, just enough to humiliate, to remind you of your place. Then, as quickly as they appeared, their mocking laughter echoing down the alley, you are left in the sudden, ringing silence. You lie on the cold ground. In your side, a dull echo of the agony in your soul. Eliza is sobbing quietly, her face buried in her hands, staring at the scattered, dirt-smeared matchboxes that remain. Your treasure, your future, ruined. Slowly, painfully, you push yourself up, Hep. Your hands are shaking. You look at what's left, maybe a third of the stock. Not enough to be a disaster, success either. The dream of a perfect, foolproof plan lies shattered on the ground. You crawl forward and begin to pick up the remaining boxes, your fingers fumbling. The cardboard is damp and smeared with mud. Treve feels like a tiny, insignificant victory in the face of a monumental defeat. Jack doesn't move. At the ground, his face a mask of fury and shame. He failed to protect you. He failed to protect your shared hope, your voice cracking. He doesn't look up. Should have just bought the pies. He whispers, the words raw with self-loathing. "I told you." The street always takes it back. You finish gathering the last of the boxes, piling the sorry-looking stack onto the remains of the larger carton. The elation you felt an hour ago seems like a cruel joke, snapped back into its proper shape, harsh, unforgiving, and brutal. Your 21st century idea, your clever plan, smashed against the simple, timeless law of the alley, the strong take from the weak. You look at Eliza, still crying, and at Jack, defeated and bleeding. The weight of his earlier words comes back to you, Vive. If we lose it all, you're the one who's gonna tell Eliza's belly there's no supper. You didn't lose it all, but you lost the magic, the illusion of control, survival. You realize with a certainty that chills you to the bone. Clever plans or getting ahead, it's about enduring the kicks. It's about getting up after you've been knocked down again and salvaging what you can from the wreckage. You look at the small pile of salvaged matches. It's not a treasure chest anymore. It's just a job, a hard, dangerous job. And tomorrow you have to get up and do it. Cellar has worked its way into your very bones, a permanent chill that no amount of shivering can dislodge. It's a familiar feeling, this cold, but today it feels different, malevolent. It seems to rise from the packed earth floor and cling to the sick, sweet air, a tangible presence in the cramped, dark space you, Jack, have called home for the past fortnight. A single, sputtering tallow candle pilfered from a church offering box. Small circle of the oppressive gloom, its weak light catching the moisture that beads on the sweating brick walls. On a pallet of damp straw and rags, Eliza lies frighteningly still. Her breathing is the only sound that truly matters, rasping noise that catches in her chest with a wet, rattling cough. Each spasm shakes her thin frame, seems to tear something loose inside her, and inside you, her face, illuminated by the flickering candlelight, is waxy and pale, standing out like specks of dirt on porcelain. Her eyes are closed, but her eyelids flutter, lost in the labyrinth of a fevered dream. You shift your weight on the upturned crate you're sitting on, threadbare coat tighter around yourself. It does little good. The cold isn't just outside you anymore. Ice in your gut. This isn't just a cough. You've seen enough sickness in the rookeries and doss houses to know the difference. This is the galloping consumption, the white plague you hear whispered about in hushed, fearful tones. A memory, sharp and unwelcome, flashes through your mind from your other life, a clean, bright clinic, the smell of antiseptic coat, calmly prescribing a course of antibiotics. The simplicity of it, the certainty, is so far removed from this squalid reality that it feels like a cruel joke. Here, there are no easy cures. Here, like Eliza's is a death knell. She ain't getting better. Jack whispers from the shadows near the cellar steps. His voice, brash, street, hardened confidence, is thin and strained. He's been trying to be strong for you and for Eliza. The fear is winning. He gnaws on a hangnail, his eyes fixed on Eliza's form. Gave her the last of the water. She just right through me. We need to do something more, Jack. You say, your voice low but intense. She needs a doctor. Jack lets out a short, bitter laugh that sounds more like a bark. A doctor, a sawbones, you mean? Pain with Finn. The fluff in our pockets. He'll take one look at us, one look at to pay for a pauper's grave and be done with it. They don't care for our saw. He kicks at a loose stone on the floor. Old man Hemlock down on Fleet Street. He got the consumption. One of them hospitals. They blood him, said it were bad humours. Bled him right into his coffin, they did. That's what doctors do for us. His words are a bucket of icy water, extinguishing the tiny flame of your modern world hope. He's right, course. For the wealthy, a doctor might be a source of comfort and healing. For the poor, they are often just the final step before the undertaker. Still, you can't accept it. You can't just sit here and listen to the life rattling out of her. You insist, standing up and beginning to pace the small, clear area of the floor. Your worn-out boots make soft, scuffing sounds on the dirt. There has to be a way, an apothecary then, for some laudanum or a tonic, something to ease the pain. But that costs. It costs real money, more than we can make selling matches for a week. You both fall silent, the weight of that truth settling between you. The few shillings you'd managed to scrape together last week are long gone. Crusts of bread and the single precious candle that is now burning perilously low. Sound is Eliza's ragged breathing and the distant, muffled rumble of London overhead. A city of millions, teeming with wealth. You can't get your hands on enough to save one girl's life. Jack watches you pace, his gaze dark and thoughtful. Mischief in his eyes has been replaced by a grim resolve. He pushes himself off the wall and comes closer, voice dropping to a conspiratorial hush. I know a lay, Finn. A risky one, but the score. Stop pacing and turn to him. What kind of lay? Not sellin', nothing. Sweepin', no crossin's. He glances over at Eliza, then back at you, his meaning clear. He's talking about crime, real crime. This swell, he continues, his words coming faster now. A proper toff. I seen him a few times near Covent Garden Theatre. Strots about like he owns the place. Fob watch, silk top hat, the lot. And careless. His coat pocket, where he keeps his purse, like he's checking. It's still there. Drawn attention to it. He's fat with coin. A proper dip is all it take. A pickpocketing. The thought sends a fresh wave of cold, different from the cellar's damp. It's one thing to pilfer a loaf of bread when you're starving, another entirely to steal a man's wallet. The risks are enormous. The peelers don't take kindly to thievery. It could mean prison, the hulks, even transportation to Australia. Heard the stories. You've seen the boys, no older than you, being dragged away in irons. Jack If we ain't caught, he cuts in, his eyes boring into yours. Eliza gets a doctor. She gets proper food. With a fire, we get a chance. He gestures around the miserable cellar. What's the risk? This starving and freezing while we watch her die. I'd rather take my chances with the beak. You look from Jack's desperate to Eliza's still form. Her chest rises and falls in a stuttering rhythm. He's right. What is there to lose? Existence. Your freedom to starve. The image of her smile, stale bread with you on your first day in this nightmare, flashes in your mind. You owe her. You have to try. Shaky breath, the foul air filling your lungs. All right, Jack, you hear yourself say. All right, tell me the plan. 2 hours later, you are huddled in the mouth of a narrow, stinking alley off the Strand, the grand thoroughfare of the Lyceum Theatre just a stone's throw away. The difference between your world and this one is staggering. From ornate iron posts casting a brilliant, golden glow that makes the wet cobblestones gleam. Doesn't smell of filth and despair, but of money. It smells of roasting chestnuts from a street vendor's cart, other from the harnesses of waiting horses, of cigar smoke and the faint, sweet scent of perfume that drifts from the well-dressed theatre goers. The rumble of carriage wheels is a constant thunder, sharp clatter of hooves a counterpoint. Silk hats and immaculate evening coats escort women whose dresses rustle with the sound of wealth, like the chiming of tiny bells. They are a different species. They move with an unthinking confidence, solid and secure beneath their polished boots. To them, you and Jack, pressed into the shadows, are less than ghosts, simply part of the grime, as invisible as the dirt in the gutter. A cold drizzle has begun to fall, misting the air and making you shiver uncontrollably. Jack is beside you, tense as a coiled spring. Target twice already, a portly, middle-aged man with a florid face and mutton chop whiskers. Jack described self-important, loud, and constantly patting the left breast pocket of his expensive-looking wool overcoat. Jack mutters for the third time, his breath fogging in the chilly air. See how he does it, like he's begging someone to fleece him. Your heart is a frantic drum against your ribs. Your palms are sweating despite the cold. Insane. You are about to commit a serious crime in the middle of one of London's busiest streets, surrounded by people and just yards from where a peeler in his tall helmet is pacing his beat. Instinct from your former life is screaming at you to run, to hide, to find another way. But then the image of Eliza's face, and slick with fever, rises in your mind's eye. The rattling sound of her breath echoes in your ears, drowning out the noise of the city. Thickest when the show lets out, Jack explains, his voice a low rasp. They all come pouring out at once. I'll cause a ruckus on the other side. A trip, a shout, something to draw the eye. That's your moment, Finn. You'll ave 2 seconds, no more. Just a brush, a dip, and you melt back into the alley. Don't run. Just walk. Fast. I'll meet you back at the Saint, Rookery by the old brewery. Oh, you nod, unable to speak. Your throat is too tight. You watch the swell laugh with a friend. Thrown back, he has no idea that his life is about to intersect with yours, that 2 desperate children in the shadows are plotting to violate his perfect, orderly world. A bitter resentment churns in your stomach. The contents of that wallet are probably for a night's entertainment. For you, it's life and death. The theatre doors swing open, light and people onto the pavement. This is it. The moment is here. Now. Jack hisses. Arm a firm squeeze, a gesture of both encouragement and command. And then he's gone, melting into the throng of bodies. Shaky breath and step out of the alley's mouth, forcing yourself to look like just another face in the crowd. Your senses are on fire. The press of bodies is suffocating. A sea of wool, silk, and damp coats. You smell gin on one man's breath, gossip from a passing woman. You keep your eyes locked on the back of your target's head. He's trying to hail a cab, jostling for position near the curb. You see Jack across the way. He stumbles, seemingly by accident, into a large, irate-looking gentleman. "Where you're going, you filthy urchin?" The man bellows. A small commotion begins. Heads turn. The peeler glances over and momentarily diverted. It's your signal. Time seems to slow down. You slide through a gap in the crowd, small and precise. You are a ghost, a shadow. You come up behind the portly man. He's distracted to see the disturbance Jack is causing. His coat pocket is right there. It's almost too easy. You don't let yourself think. The desperate animal instinct for survival take over. Your fingers, small and nimble, brush against the heavy wool of his coat. You feel the clear, rectangular outline of the wallet inside. Your breath catches. With 2 fingers, you dip into the pocket. The leather is smooth, cool to the touch. You pinch the top edge and lift. It slides out with a whisper of movement. For a terrifying second, you think he felt it. He shifts his weight and you freeze, clutched in your palm, your heart hammering so hard you're sure he can hear it. Just grumbles about the lack of cabs and pats his other pocket. You haven't been noticed. You have it. You don't run. Force your legs to move in a measured, quick walk. You slip the wallet inside your own ragged coat, the unfamiliar weight a guilty, thrilling burden against your ribs. You melt back towards the alley, keeping your head down. Don't look back. Don't look at the peeler. Each step is an agony of suspense. You expect a hand to clamp down on your shoulder at any second, a shout of "stop" to ring out behind you, but it never comes. You reach the mouth of the alley and slip back into its blessedly dark, smelling embrace. Only then do you let yourself break into a run. You fly through the labyrinthine back streets of London, splashing through unseen puddles, your lungs burning. You don't stop until you reach the crumbling facade of the old brewery Insane, the designated meeting point. You collapse against a wall in a dark corner, gasping for air, making you shake from head to toe. Jack finds you there minutes later, his face flushed with excitement and fear, his eyes wide. You can only nod, pulling the wallet from your coat. It feels impossibly thick. We did it. The journey back to the cellar is a blur of fear and elation. You sneak down the broken steps, your heart still pounding. The cellar is as you left it, cold, dark, and silent, save for the sound that spurred you to this crime. Eliza's breathing. The rattles more pronounced. Light the candle. You whisper, your voice hoarse. Jack fumbles with the flint and steel. The small, brave flame flickers to life again. In its unsteady glow, Jack huddle together on the dirt floor and finally look at your prize. It's a handsome wallet, made of dark, supple leather, with a silver clasp. Your fingers, clumsy with cold and nerves, struggle to open it. Inside is a thick wad of banknotes, ever seen in one place, pounds. Not shillings, not pennies, but crisp, white £5 notes. There must be 30 or 40 pounds here. It's a fortune. It's enough for a doctor, for medicine, for a warm room, for food for months. To change everything. A wave of giddy relief washes over you. You look at Jack, and he's grinning, a wide smile that lights up his grimy face. You've done it. You've saved her. But behind the banknotes, separate sleeve, is something else, a small, stiff piece of card. Curious, you pull it out. It's thick, creamy white, expensive cardstock you've never touched before. On it, in elegant, embossed black letters, is a name and an address. Your reading is still slow, a skill you've been piecing together, but you can make out the letters. You sound them out under your breath. Inspector F. Fred Ab Berline. The name means nothing to you at first. It makes the blood drain from your face, leaving you colder than the cellar air ever could. Scotland Yard. Jack is still staring at the money. What's that bit of paper? Finn. What's it say? You look up from the card, wide with horror. The elation of a moment ago has curdled into pure, stomach-dropping terror. You stare at Jack, forgotten in your lap. The name on the card echoes in the sudden, ringing silence of the cellar, a pronouncement of doom. You whisper, your voice barely audible. We didn't just rob some swell. From the corner, Eliza lets out a low, painful moan. The sound slices through the silence, a stark reminder of why you did this. But it's no longer a sound of hope. It's the sound of the trap springing shut. We just robbed a chief inspector from Scotland Yard. The frost came not as a gentle guest, as a silent invader creeping through the city in the dead of night. At first, it was a novelty, a sharp, in the air that scrubbed the usual stench of coal smoke and humanity from the streets. Jack would wake in your shared crate behind the bakery, the warmth from the ovens a distant memory against the encroaching chill, and see your breath plume like smoke from a clay pipe. You would laugh, the sound cracking in the brittle air. Threadbare horse blanket tighter around your shoulders, a shield against a world turning to glass. But the novelty did not last. The frost tightened its grip day by day until London was a city trapped in ice. The Thames, artery of survival, grew sluggish, its brown water thickening. The usual treasure of the foreshore, scraps of metal, coins, lumps of coal fallen from the barges, was sealed beneath a crust of ice that glittered cruelly in the weak winter sun. King days were over. The riverbank, once a source of meagre but reliable income, was now a treacherous, barren wasteland. Stood disconsolately on the frozen mud, their cries thin and mournful. You understood how they felt. Nicks to be had. Voice was a low rasp beside you, his lips chapped and blue. He kicked at a frozen puddle, the ice refusing to shatter, merely groaning in protest. Revers shut up tight as a miser's fist. You just nodded, your hands deeper into the pockets of your tattered coat. The fabric was so worn it offered little more than a psychological barrier against the cold. Your fingers were numb stumps, deep, relentless pain. Hunger, a familiar companion, had become a ravenous beast, gnawing at your insides with an urgency that bordered on panic. The pennies you'd saved hidden in a loose brick near your sleeping spot, dwindling at an alarming rate. A stale roll that once cost a halfpenny was now a penny. A cup of watery broth from a street vendor was a luxury you could no longer afford. The cold made people mean warmth and their charity. The doors of fine houses, which might once have opened to offer a crust of bread to a shivering child, were now slammed shut. Frost and the desperation it bred. Your crossing, sweeping enterprise suffered the same fate. Of horse manure and London filth that usually coated the streets was frozen solid, a lumpy, treacherous carpet of ice to sweep. You and Jack tried for a day, your worn broom skittering uselessly over the frozen ground, but curses from pedestrians struggling to keep their footing. One portly gentleman, face purple with indignation and cold, threatened to call a peeler on you for being a public nuisance. You had fled, his angry shouts chasing you down the slick, unforgiving lane. Sleep became a battle. Warmth from the bakery ovens, was no match for the penetrating cold that seeped through the wooden slats of your crate. You would huddle together, two small bodies fighting for a sliver of heat, so violent it felt as if your bones would shake themselves apart. You would dream of fire, roaring hearths and steaming bowls of stew, only to wake to the stark, frozen reality of another dawn. With shades of grey and white, the sky a permanent, oppressive sheet of metal. You saw the death carts more often now, their grim cargo covered by a thin sheet, the shapes beneath it small and still. You tried not to look, you tried not to imagine their faces. Their last sensation was this same all-consuming cold. "We can't stay here," you whispered one night, chattering so hard you could barely form the words. We'll end up on one of them carts." Jack didn't answer for a long time. You could feel the tension in his small frame, rigid set of his jaw against your shoulder. When he finally spoke, his voice was unnaturally steady. "I know a place. A ken. The 7 Dials?" Your blood ran even colder, a feat you wouldn't have thought possible. The 7 Dials, the street folk. The name was spoken with a mixture of fear and reverence. A rookery, collapsing tenements and labyrinthine courts, where the law didn't dare to tread. It was a place of thieves, gin sots, and worse. But it was also a place you knew that would be warm. "It's dangerous," you managed. "Being a frozen corpse is dangerous," he retorted, his voice sharp. "Look, it's run by a bloke they call the Professor. Not a real professor, o' course. Buys what the lads pinch, but he keeps a cellar warm for his boys. A penny a night, and you can sleep by the fire. Ask questions long as you're useful." The word hung in the air between you. If a useful, you knew what that meant. The professor wouldn't be running a charity. A spot by his fire would have a price far higher than a penny. It would mean working for him, becoming one of his boys, your mind, the part of you that still remembered a different life, a different set of rules. But then a gust of wind, sharp as a razor, sliced through a gap in the crate, and the protest died in your throat. You breathed the word, a small cloud of steam in the darkness. "All right, Jack." The next morning, your crate, your only home, and made your way towards the Dials, was a descent into a deeper circle of London's hell. The streets grew narrower, the buildings taller and more decrepit, against each other for support like a row of drunks. The air grew thick with the cloying smell of cheap gin, unwashed bodies. Here, the frost seemed to have mixed with the filth, creating a black, greasy ice that covered everything. Darkened doorways, eyes suspicious and hollow. You clutched Jack's hand, your small size, usually a disadvantage, now a blessing, allowing you to slip through the throng unnoticed. The professor's ken was in a cellar beneath a gin palace, gaping maw in the side of the building. The stench of stale beer and vomit was overpowering. Jack, however, forward with a confidence you didn't feel pulling you along with him. He knocked a specific rhythm on the heavy wooden door. A small grate slid open, and a pair of eyes, small and piggy, peered out. "What you want?" A voice grunted. To see the professor, Jack said, his voice steady. "Got business." The eyes scrutinized you both, lingering on your shivering forms. "But the professor ain't taking on no more infants." "We ain't infants." Jack shot back, his chin jutting out. "We're earners. Good ones. Just our lurks frozen over." Jack sent for him. "He'll remember." There was a long pause. You held your breath, your heart hammering against your ribs. With a reluctant scrape of bolts, the door creaked open. The man who opened it was huge and grime, with a flattened nose and a permanent scowl. He jerked his head, and you scurried past him into the cellar. The first thing that hit you was the heat. It was a thick, oppressive wave of warmth emanating from a large, bellied stove that glowed cherry red in the center of the room. The air was heavy with the smell of unwashed bodies, tobacco smoke, something metallic and sweet. The room was large and low-ceilinged, the stone walls weeping with damp. Dozens of boys, younger than you to near, men were crammed inside. Some were sleeping on piles of rags, others were gambling with dice. Illuminated by the flickering stove light, in the far corner, seated at a rickety table and surrounded by a small court of older-looking youths, was a man. He was small and thin, with a neat, threadbare suit and spectacles perched on his sharp nose. His hair was slicked back with pomade, and he was meticulously cleaning his fingernails with a small knife. This, you knew, must be the professor. He looked up as you approached, his eyes magnified by the spectacles seeming to bore right through you. He said, his voice surprisingly soft and educated, "I do remember you. A nimble little creature. My employ some time ago found honesty more profitable. Found the peelers too interested in your business," Jack said boldly. "But times change." The frost called. The professor smiled, a thin, humorless expression. "The frost bites everyone, my boy. It is the great equalizer." Shadow, his gaze shifted to you, and you felt a squirm of pure fear. His eyes were not unkind, utterly devoid of warmth. They were the eyes of a man who calculated value, who saw you not as a child or a liability. "This is Pip," Jack said, using the name you'd adopted. "Sharp as a tack." "I see." The professor leaned back in his chair, tapping the knife against the table. The sound was a quiet tick, tick that echoed the frantic beating of your own heart. "A spot by my fire is not free. Establishment is not the workhouse. Here everyone earns their keep. The question is necessary to be for useful?" You looked at Jack, and he gave you the slightest of nods. Thought of the freezing crate, of the gnawing hunger, of the dead children in the carts. You swallowed hard, fear in your throat like a stone. "Yes, sir," you heard yourself say, the voice sounding small and foreign. The professor's smile widened a fraction. "Then welcome to the family. Your first lesson begins now. Pressing need for fuel. The coal merchants are making a fortune from this weather, and their prices are an insult to common decency. Civic duty to redistribute some of their inventory. There is a delivery due on Endell Street this afternoon. A Mr. Sneed is a creature of habit. His carter always stops for a paint at the crow's nest, leaving the cart unattended for a good 10 minutes. I want you two to acquire a sack. Do not get caught." He dismissed you with a wave of his hand to his fingernails. The message was clear. Succeed, and you had a place by the fire. Fail, you were on your own, or worse. One of the older boys, a lanky youth with a scar that split his eyebrow, burlap sack into your hands. "Don't muck it up, new fish," he sneered. Out in the cold again, the brief of the cellar already a fading memory, the reality of what you had to do settled in your stomach like a lead weight. This was different from finding things on the riverbank or begging for a penny. This was stealing, crime that could get you sent to prison or transported. "It's just coal, Pip," Jack said, sensing your hesitation. He tried to sound casual, but you could see the tension in the set of his shoulders. "Everyone does it. It's for us. For keeping warm. Just be quick, in and out, like a rat in a pantry. I'll do the grabbing. You just keep watch. Easy." It did not feel easy. made your way to Endell Street. Every shadow seemed to hold a peeler. Every passerby's glance felt like an accusation. Your heart thudded a frantic, terrified rhythm against your ribs. Found the spot across from the Crow's Nest Tavern and huddled in a recessed doorway, just another pair of freezing urchins. The waiting was agony. The cold seeped back into your bones. This time it was mixed with a new icy dread. Finally, you heard it, the rumble of wheels on the frozen cobblestones and the snorting of a large dray horse. The coal cart, piled high with black, pulled to a stop. The carter, a big man with a red, frost-nipped face, wrapped the reins around a post and, Professor's word, lumbered into the tavern. "Now," Jack whispered, wide and bright with a mixture of fear and excitement, "stay here, keep your eyes peeled. If you see a peeler whistle, one like a bird." He handed you the empty sack and darted across the street, his movements swift and silent. You watch, caught in your throat, as he scrambled onto the back of the cart. He worked quickly, his small, stuffing lumps of coal into another sack already on the cart. Your job was to watch. Your eyes scanned the street up and down. Tell-tale dark blue uniform and helmet of a policeman. The street was mostly empty, most people indoors. A few figures hurried past, heads down, paying no mind to the cart. Filled the sack. He was just tying the top when the tavern door swung open. It wasn't the carter, man in a long coat, but your relief was short-lived. Behind him, framed in the doorway, you saw the unmistakable blue of a peeler's uniform. He was talking to the publican, not even looking your way, but he was there. Your lips were too dry, too numb with cold. Only a pathetic, airy hiss came out. Panic seized you. You opened your mouth to shout, to call Jack's name, but fear had stolen your voice. The peeler finished his conversation and turned, sweeping the street. It fell upon the cart and upon the small figure of Jack, frozen in the act of lifting the heavy sack. "Oi, what's all this then?" The peeler's voice boomed, shattering the quiet street. Jack dropped the sack. Horrifying second, he just stared, a rabbit caught in the glare of a lantern. Then his instincts took over. He scrambled off the cart, the safety of the alleyways, but back towards you. The carter, alerted by the shout, came storming out of the tavern. Of fury, "Little thief! I'll have your hide!" he bellowed. Jack ran, his small legs pumping furiously on the icy ground. Fast, but the peeler was faster. He was closing the distance. Jack glanced back, his eyes locking with yours. You saw it all in that one desperate look, his fear, his apology, his decision. He was almost to your hiding spot when he did it. He veered sharply and threw himself with all his might into your side. "Run, Pip!" He screamed, his voice raw with desperation. The impact sent you stumbling backwards, deeper into the shadows of the doorway. At the same moment, the peeler lunged. His hand shot out, not for you, but for Jack. He caught him by the collar of his coat, lifting him clear off his feet. Jack struggled and squirming like a trapped animal, but it was no use. The peeler's grip was iron. You watched, hidden and paralyzed. Your only friend in this entire godforsaken world was held fast. The carter came running up, shaking his fist. "Well done, officer!" A taste of the cat o' 9 tails is what he needs. "Stow it, you!" Jack spat, but defiant. "I was on my own. Didn't see no one else, did you?" He twisted his head just enough to look past the peeler, one last time in the gloom. It was a clear, silent command. "Stay hidden." Sailor, you shrank back against the cold stone, the burlap sack clutched in your numb hands. You felt a tear freeze on your cheek. You watched as the peeler, his grip unyielding, began to drag Jack away down the street, his small feet scrambling to find purchase on the ice. You watched until they turned the corner and were gone. The street was quiet again. The carter grumbled as he checked his load. The tavern door closed and the world returned to its frozen, indifferent state. But for you, everything had shattered. You were alone. The heat from the professor's fire was a promise you could never claim, and the cold that now filled you had nothing to do with the weather. It was the absolute, soul-deep chill of utter desolation. You were alone in the heart of the frozen city, with nothing but a stolen sack and the ghost of your friend's last, desperate command, shrunk to the space beneath a rotting pier, the damp, skeletal timbers pressed down, smelling of brine and decay, the gaps between them showing slivers of a sky the colour of dishwater. Every slap of the greasy Thames water against the pilings is a footstep. Every gull's cry is a shout of discovery. Cold has worked its way through your threadbare coat, through your thin shirt, and now seems to be living in your bones, a permanent. Beside you, Jack is a statue of grim misery, his knees drawn to his chest, his gaze fixed on the sucking mud. Between you, a fitful, whimpering sleep, his small body curled into a ball for a warmth that doesn't exist. Hunger is no longer a pang. Landscape, it is the hollow continent inside you, and your thoughts wander its desolate plains. You remember meals from your other life with an agonizing clarity, a hot pizza, the cheese stretching and bubbling, a simple bowl of cereal with cold milk. The memories are a form of self-torture, ghosts of a world you can no longer be sure was ever real. Or was it just a long, warm dream before this waking nightmare? You press a hand to your stomach, a useless gesture. Eaten in 2 days is a half. Rotten apple you fought a dog for. The dog won the larger half. Jack says, his voice a low rasp, devoid of its usual cocky swagger. He doesn't need to say who O is. Silas's name hangs in the air, as foul as the stench of the river. He won't just let it be. Not after we crossed him. Not after we took Finn back. But you had done it in a fit of desperate bravery. You'd found Finn crying in an alley, his face bruised, his pockets turned out. Silas's boys had taken the pennies he'd earned holding horses and given him a beating as a down payment on the misery he could expect should he ever try to work for himself again. So small and broken, had ignited something in you and Jack. You'd found 2 of Silas's older boys near the 7 Dials, and flurry of rocks and fury created a diversion while Jack snatched back the coppers. It was a victory that lasted all of 5 minutes, followed by the immediate sickening realization that you had just declared war on a man who treated children like currency. You murmur, your breath fogging in the frigid air. When the tide comes in, be flooded. Nowhere to go, Jack counters, his voice flat. He's got eyes everywhere. Every crossing sweeper. They'll sell us for a shilling. Hey, heavy tread on the wooden planks above. You all freeze, a trio of terrified mice. Steps are slow, deliberate. 1 set of boots. Heavy ones. They stop directly overhead. Blocks the grey light from a gap in the boards. You hold your breath until your lungs burn, hammering a frantic rhythm against your ribs. Finn stirs, and you instinctively clamp a hand over his mouth, with panic in the gloom. I know you're down there, a voice purrs from above. It's a voice like treacle and spider silk you hear in your nightmares, Silas. I can smell the fear. Stinks worse than this river. Come on out. Let's have a little chat. Unpleasantness. Jack's eyes meet yours, and in them you see a terror that mirrors your own. This is it. There is no escape. The slow, confident footsteps resume. the stone steps that lead down from the embankment to the muddy shore. He isn't guessing, he knows. Someone saw you, Jack. You whisper, your mind racing, sifting through 100 terrible possibilities. The far side, thicker if we can get through them. Has not alone, Jack whispers back, his head cocked. Hear it. More of M. Tight. He's right. You can hear the faint scuff of other shoes, the low murmur of voices. He has you boxed in. Rage, hot and useless, cuts through your fear. After all this, after everything you've learned and endured, a rat in a trap. It's too cruel. Silas appears at the edge of the under-pyre gloom, a stout silhouette against the bleak light. He's not a monster in appearance, just a man in a slightly too fine waistcoat and a greasy top hat, a thick walking stick in his hand. Two of his older, tougher boys, shadows in the twilight, flank him. There you are, Silas says, his voice dripping with false friendliness. Takes a step onto the mud which squelches under his polished boots. Causing me no end of trouble, you are. And after all I've offered, regular meals, a proper education in a profitable trade, he smiles, a predator's grin. This is... He gestures around at the filth and the dripping darkness. My ain't your property. Jack spits. To his feet, he shoves Finn behind him, a scrawny, defiant guard dog. Oh, but that's where you're wrong. Silas says, slow step. In this city, everything belongs to someone, and stray pups that bite the hand that offers to feed them. Me, I find them, I train them, I put them to work. It's a service, you see. I'm a philanthropist. He chuckles, a low sound. Now, give me the little one. Finn, isn't it? He's got a lesson to learn about loyalty. You'll work off the debt you owe me for my troubles. You'll work it off for a long, long time. His eyes fix on you. You're the new one, ain't you? The one with the strange talk. You're clever, I can see it. Wasted out here. With me, you could be a proper cracksman. You could have gold in your pockets, not mud on your face. It's the offer of a devil. Chains. For a fleeting, shameful second, you feel its pull, the thought of a full belly of a warm bed. Finn, his face pale with terror, and at Jack, ready to fight a battle he cannot possibly win. It means becoming one of the hulking boys behind Silas. It means inflicting this same fear on other children. It means losing the last tiny piece of the person you used to be. No, you say, your voice steadier than you feel. Silas's smile vanishes. To his boys. Get them. He nods. This is the moment, the pivot point on which your entire existence now turns. There is no plan. Instinct. As the two brutes start forward, you don't run away from them. You run towards them. Towards Silas. Thing they expect. You lower your shoulder and drive yourself forward with every ounce of wary strength you have. Silas's legs. You connect with his knees, your head cracking hard against his thigh. He grunts in surprise and pain. A curse. He wasn't ready for a direct assault. He was expecting you to cower. Jack, run. You scream, your voice raw. Doesn't need telling twice. He grabs Finn's hand and yanks him toward the far side of the pier, scrambling over the slick, covered timbers that brace the pilings. One of the thugs lunges for you, but you roll away, coming up with a handful of thick. You fling it blindly. It hits him square in the face. He bellows in rage and disgust, clawing at his eyes. Has regained his balance, his face a mask of fury. He swings his walking stick of polished wood that whistles through the air. You duck. The stick smashes into a wooden piling with a crack that echoes in the enclosed space. Splinters fly. If that had hit your head, the second thug is on you, grabbing the back of your coat. His grip is like iron. He lifts you, uselessly in the air. You twist, thrashing like a landed fish, and bite down hard on the fleshy part of his hand. And his grip loosens. For a fraction of a second, it's enough. You drop to the mud, scrambling away on all fours. Frantic shout from Jack.
This way, Fiemon.
You look over. He and Finn are nearly at the edge of the darkness, where a narrow, choked channel runs back toward the embankment. But the first thug, his face now a muddy mess, is closing in on them. He's bigger, faster. They won't make it. You need a diversion, a real one. Your eyes dart around the gloom, landing on a pile of sodden driftwood and rubbish caught against the pilings. High above it, a loose lantern hangs from a hook on the pier by a dockworker. It's unlit, but you can smell the paraffin. An idea born of sheer adrenaline-fueled desperation. You grab a loose piece of timber, half rotten but long enough. You lunge past a still cursing sealer's, another swipe at you with his stick. This time it connects with your shoulder, and a bolt of white, hot pain shoots down your arm. But don't stop. You wedge yourself against a piling, aim the timber, and thrust it upwards with all your might. You miss. You try again, your shoulder screaming in protest. The end of the timber connects with the base of the lantern. It rocks wildly. Third thrust, fueled by the sight of the thug grabbing Jack's collar. The lantern tilts, slips from its hook, and tumbles down, shattering on the pile of rubbish below. Paraffin splashes everywhere, but there's no flame. For a heart-stopping second, nothing happens. Sinks in your gut, but then you remember the tinderbox. The one Jack insisted you always carry. You'd almost thrown away a dozen times. Your numb, fumbling fingers find it in your pocket. You pull it out, fint against the steel with a trembling hand. A spark. Nothing. Another. Nothing. The thug is dragging Jack back. Silas is advancing on you, his face murder a last try. A tiny spark catches on the char cloth, a faint glowing orange line. You blow on it, a desperate prayer in your throat, and a small flame springs to life. Toss the entire tinderbox into the paraffin-soaked heap. The result is instantaneous and terrifying, and a flash of heat as the rubbish pile erupts in a column of oily, black, smoked fire. The sudden light is blinding, tense. Silas and his boys recoil, shielding their faces. The fire catches on the creosote-soaked timbers of the pier itself, the pilings like a hungry beast.
Fire! Fire on the docks!
You scream at the top of your lungs, pointing up at the pier. Chaos is your shield. Shouts erupt from the embankment above. People are running, pointing. The distraction is total. You turn and sprint, ignoring the fire in your shoulder, focusing only on Jack and Finn. You grab Finn's other hand. Go. Together, the three of you plunge into the narrow, stinking channel, the filthy water rising to your waists. Muddy bank on the other side, slipping and sliding, and melt into the maze of alleys behind the warehouses. You just run. You run until your lungs are ragged, until the pain in your shoulder is a dull, throbbing drumbeat. Shouts and the panicked bells of the fire wagons are a distant memory. You finally collapse in the shadow of a silent up-tannery, the stench of chemicals a welcome replacement for the smell of smoke and river mud. You huddle together, gasping for air. From cold fear and exertion, you are safe for now, but you are also exposed, homeless and marked men. You saved us. Jack breathes, looking at you with a new kind of respect. The fire you started is reflected in his eyes. You saved us, but we're done for. We can never go back. Not to the rookery, not to the markets. He'll hunt us forever. He's right. You've won the battle, but in doing so, you've made the entire city a prison. You lean your head back against the cold brick, exhaustion so profound it feels like sinking. What now? What is left? Your mind, surprisingly, drifts to Mary, to her small beauty, selling flowers in a world of filth. She represents a life you can't have, fragile peace now utterly beyond your reach. Or is it? An idea, faint and terrifying, begins to form, a memory of a conversation with her. She'd been talking about a family from her tenement. Gone to Canada, she'd said, her brow furrowed. That some society paid their passage, said there's land and work for anyone willing. Imagine that, so much empty space. Jack, you say, hoarse, what if we left? Not just the rookery. What if we left London? He stares at you as if you've gone mad. And go where? The whole country's the same. Rich folk and us. No, you insist, the idea gaining strength, gaining weight. Solid thing in a world that has turned to smoke and water. Further across the sea, to America or Canada. A new place. A place where no one knows our names. A place without sealers. The silence that follows is heavy with the sheer impossibility of it. It's like suggesting you fly to the moon. But you see a flicker of something in Jack's eyes. Not hope, but a crack in his despair. How? He asks, the words small and fragile. It takes coin. See, there are societies, you say, clinging to Mary's words, charities, for orphans, for street boys, send you, they pay for it. We've seen the posters near the docks, the ones we always ignored. You spend the next 2 days in hiding. At night, sharing scraps of food Mary leaves for you in a pre-arranged spot behind a baker's, the fear of discovery a constant companion. You tell her your desperate plan. She listens, her face pale, twisting the fabric of her apron. The next day, instead of food, she leaves a crumpled pamphlet. It's for a Dr. Barnardo's home. The front is a drawing of bright-faced boys boarding a massive ship. Below it, words of promise, destitute lads in the colonies of the Empire. It's a terrifying gamble. You've heard stories. In the colonies is brutal farm labor, a different kind of servitude. But it's a chance. It's an escape. Door that hasn't been slammed shut in your face. And so 1 week after the fire, you find yourselves standing on the docks beneath them, but staring up at the iron hull of a steamship called the ASS Hibernian. It's a monster of metal and rivets, smokestack belching a plume of grey smoke into the sky. The air is thick with the smell of coal, salt, and something else. Clean scent of the open sea. You, Jack, and Finn are not alone. You are part of a shuffling, nervous line of 50 other boys, all in identical, ill-fitting new clothes of coarse wool, all clutching a small bundle with their worldly possessions. Stories lie about your parents, convince a stern-faced man with a Bible that you were worthy of saving. Them scrub you raw and cut your hair. You had to become anonymous. Mary is there to see you off. Little way apart from the crowd, a small, brave figure in her shawl. She doesn't cry. You walk over to her, giving you a moment. You're right, she asks, her voice barely a whisper. I'll try. You promise. The chances are slim. I don't know how. She presses something into your hand. You look down. It's a single violet saved from her basket. So you don't forget the smell of London, she says, a sad smile touching her lips. The good parts? Anyway, you don't know what to say. The words feel laughably small. The words, I'll miss you, feel too large, too painful to speak. You just nod, clutching the flower as if it's the most precious thing in the world. You look at her one last time, memorizing her face before turning back to your friends. The line begins to move, shuffling up the wide wooden gangplank. Feels momentous, a step away from the only life you've known. You put a hand on Finn's shoulder. He looks up at you, wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. Jack falls into step beside you, looking not at the ship, but back at the city, masts, the grimy spires of churches, the endless rooftops under a blanket of smoke. "Well," he says, voice trying for its old bravado, "suppose there's rats on ships too, and pockets to pick in Canada." You smile, a real smile. So, you reach the top of the gangplank and step onto the iron deck. You don't look back. You can't risk being turned to salt, to be frozen by the memory of all the pain and all the loss. Instead, you look forward. You look past the rigging and the smokestack out to where the muddy brown of the Thames gives way to the green of the estuary, to the endless, unknowable horizon. You are no longer the person who woke up in that alleyway months ago, shed like a skin. You have been broken and remade by this city. You have learned its cruelties and its smalls. You have starved and fought and bled and run. You have survived. And now, for the first time since you opened your eyes in this brutal, beautiful, terrible world, you have a future. It is a terrifying blank page. You are ready to write on it